Derrick, when there was talk about what happens if Brock Lesnar faces Obafemi at SummerSlam, the most common comment or speculation was, well, maybe Oba fights twice. He takes on Lesnar night one, and then fights Roman, and then if he loses, that's the excuse, or vice versa. Lesnar wants the winner of Oba versus Reigns, battle of either Paul Heyman's current guy versus former guy, could be what people look forward to paying money to see on night two, or a match where Oba's defending against Lesnar. So we're not getting that. Instead, it's Oba versus Lesnar in a Hell in a Cell, and completely detached from it now is Roman Reigns against fellow former Shield member Seth Rollins. Roman trying to get a win against somebody that he hasn't, and Seth. We'll start with Seth, by the way, Seth and Roman, just because it's we'll do separate segments on each of these, but I had to kind of talk about both at once in the open here. Seth made me more interested in the match than I was when his music started, and I go, okay, this is what we're getting. Seth's been, talking about it for years, which is smart, keep his name out there. But yeah, by the end, I was like, okay, that was pretty good. Although, and then I'll throw to you after this, I still question whether the best way to sell tickets to SummerSlam is a match where fans, while watching that segment, are like, OTC, let's sing Seth's song. OTC, yeah, I'm cheering Seth. I still believe, this is maybe this is the exception. Maybe this is one of those exceptions, but WWE's finding a lot of them lately. So I'm not down on it, but I just question if they're trying to move tickets. I wish it seemed like they were working harder to kind of get a situation going where fans are just as motivated as the New York Knicks fans were to see them win a title. And WWE doesn't feel like they're in that business, at least in the main event scene lately, even with Sammy and Cody, if that's the direction they go, they're not. Derrick, over to you. Your thoughts.
I share with some of your same concerns. If I'm a little more hopeful after Seth's promo, it's because he didn't tear down Roman. Like, he didn't go for some of the stuff that CM Punk went to, where it's only because of your family and you were propped up by the company and all these other things. Seth strayed completely away from that.
Yes.
Instead, he gave what I think is the traditionally more effective way to do it, which is to sell your opponent up as the tallest mountain to climb. So if you climb it, you did something substantial.
Yes.
And that's the path he took. And I thought that made, while still playing on their history, which is very, as they stated, very long and storied, I think it makes for a compelling matchup where this might be an exception that I support.
So it might be an exception you support. And I'm with you. I'd much rather have this not be meta or, tearing each other down, as you say. This was a straightforward, everything we ever witnessed was real. If ever this whole world is real, which is, I think, how the show should be presented, give people a chance to buy in. That's a promo that would sell you on it. And that happens in sports. Sometimes you're watching from a distance, you're like, I just want to see these two go at it. Spurs Knicks. The Knicks are such a part of WWE's narrative. It's in my mind right now. But I didn't have a strong inclination. I was leaning towards the Knicks because I know more people who are Knicks fans, and Karl-Anthony Towns is on the team, and the Spurs just beat my Timberwolves. So I definitely had, but I was like, you know what? I could just watch and enjoy knowing this is a really cool NBA Finals and get into it. But if my Timberwolves made it to the finals, I would have been like Knicks fans. We're flying to San Antonio to go to games. I got to be there for this. So that's my point is, I'll move on from it after this, but I just it's another instance of WWE doing a big show built around wrestlers where you're not going to have that peak fan experience of fans just going apeshit for rooting for in a certain outcome. And there's a lot of that. We see with fans don't know how to react to LA Knight and Solo Sikoa and the Usos right now. We'll get into that. It's just you can literally, fans are in their head going, am I supposed to cheer LA Knight? Am I supposed to cheer what Jay just did? I feel mixed feelings constantly. So I just feel they're overdoing it in that regard. But I want to, like I said, I want to move on from that and compliment Seth, because he met the moment.
Yes.
For me, this wasn't and putting his arms out and, whatever. He came out, let the crowd cheer, but he stared at Roman and got serious and talked about history and did so in a way that, we can talk about the talking points and how he makes it sound like they've never crossed paths, or only a couple times, and Seth's always beat him. Like, so there's elements of the backstory that, you know, maybe need to be fleshed out a little bit to land as fully accurate or all encompassing. But the fact that, well, actually, and I think one of the weaknesses was when Roman goes, get to the back of the line. I thought it was interesting, and I don't know why, that Seth didn't say, you know, he kind of almost accept, like, well, I'm always first in line because of our history. Yeah. He could have said, I'd just be Braun Breaker in a chair, you know, like he in a cage, not in a chair. He should have said, he should have had a case that he made a little bit that wasn't just, you know, well, on not scholarship, but sort of on legacy merits. I can just walk up. Yeah, I can just walk up and challenge you anytime. So Seth met the moment, little tweak here and there, little critique here and there. What do you think?
He met the moment, and I think it's from the second his entrance music hit. The attire, when he walked out, he didn't even do his normal hand pandering thing. I mean, he walked straight with a purpose. He was the man in black. And when he got in the ring, they did the semicircle thing. WWE's camera, you can see how perfectly directed it is if you're looking for it. But if you're just watching, you're like, this feels like a showdown. And he didn't overmodulate or undermodulate on the mic.
Yep.
Like, his words were very direct. They were to the point. The tone was steady and confident.
Yep.
Dramatic pauses where they needed to be. And I think all those things show his growth as an overall performer over the years. Because in 2014, I mean, he didn't get any mic time at all. And even after he cashed in the Money in the Bank, he was surrounded by people who were doing the talking, where he had to say very little because they didn't trust him to say it. And now, even when he was in the Vision, he was trusted almost too much to do promos. Mm-hmm. And I think it just shows his growth. He knows how to deliver. When he has something to say, he knows how to say it. And he carried that promo. Like, Roman had good lines at the end.
Yep.
But I think that segment was carried by Seth Rollins from the moment his music hit until the closing scene.
And it was his segment to own, in the sense that he interrupted Roman and was proposing something and had to convince and persuade not only Roman, but the WWE fan base to buy into this match as being a big deal. Bottom line is, and again, we'll analyze more the Hell in a Cell match in a minute, but I can't ask this question without saying, put that into the mix. Do you think tonight's Raw is going to move SummerSlam tickets in Minneapolis?
The combination of the Hell in a Cell match and this match, I think, has a greater potential to do it than if it was just one or the other. So I still think the biggest match they could have booked was Roman versus Oba. But if they wanted to finish the story with Oba and Brock, which they seem dead set on, that's why they put it in the Hell in a Cell. I think that's a big sellable match. What's left over? This is pretty big for the leftover on the Raw side. I think you can still do some things on the SmackDown side too, but on the Raw side, this is a 1B main event.
Yep. I think that's kind of where I am too. I think why WWE is not, it's bad for business, and certainly they're not always obligated, and they shouldn't be criticized for not always putting the match that's going to sell the most tickets on the next big show. I mean, you pace yourself. There's reasons you do things. Sometimes, you know, doing the biggest match now comes at the expense. And Seth made that point. Like, how much more time do we have where the opportunity might present itself for us to face each other, not on a random Raw, not in a multi-person match, not on an off-brand pay-per-view, but, you know, this big setting, or really, period. I mean, he kind of made it sound like maybe more than Yatu, that they're near the end of their careers at this point. I don't think most fans.
I liked how he walked that line, though.
Yeah.
Because it's like I loved the Triple H Undertaker build to the last of the Smash Mouth wrestlers. Mm-hmm. But the other part of me was like, but does that mean everyone after you is not a Smash Mouth wrestler?
Yep.
Like, it was like, you're lesser because we're more. And in this case, it was like, he didn't diminish what him and Roman are, but he also talked about what is right in front of our face, which is the next in line generation that we're seeing develop right through our eyes. And I think that's the smartest way to deliver that promo.
And it is acknowledging, I think, what a lot of people are looking at, and it's an exciting time if you're a WWE fan to see a new generation coming up. I mean, we see it in sports all the time. It's like there's a perennial multi-time champion of whatever sport, and then all of a sudden it can be tennis. And suddenly there's, oh, who's this person, or who are these people, or who is this team, or who are these stars, and that freshens things up, and it is inevitable. And Seth did come across there not like a showman, but the architect that they have built him as. Like, you can look at that and go, okay, Seth called himself, like he framed himself as the leader in this promo and historically as a leader of the Shield, but it didn't come across that way. Like, it just came across they're kind of three equals, but Seth didn't come across as like a mastermind. Here, he did seem like this sort of, even though they're close in age, this elder statesman who led them and now is making a compelling case that, their destiny is to kind of cross paths, and this is a good time to do it.
I agree. It felt like a guy in touch with reality, and the reality behind him and the reality in front of him. Yep.
All right. I want to throw some comments up from people watching us live in the chat, and I'll do that in a moment. But let's pause and introduce the show and ourselves here. This is a Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show on Monday, June 29th, 2026. I'm Wade Keller, host of the show, editor, publisher, and founder of the Pro Wrestling Torch weekly newsletter and the website PWTorch.com, and also host of various podcasts, including the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Shows, which you can get in podcast format if you're watching us on YouTube. That is our red logo show. And when you search Wade Keller in Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever, you'll also see the blue logo pop up. That includes our weekly flagship, media Q&As, interviews, pay-per-view previews, flashbacks, and more. Just search Wade Keller to subscribe for free. And also, while you're at it, search PWTorch in your podcast app to subscribe to the PWTorch Daily Cast. I'm joined by Derrick Hubbard. He is a PWTorch contributor and a familiar voice to people who have listened to the show for a long time. Derrick, welcome back to the co-host chair.
Oh, thanks for having me. Always good to be here.
Yeah, pitch people on your show. On your new column.
It's called Then, Now, and Forever, and it's a look back on a specific theme and how it relates to the past, how it relates to today, and then kind of its legacy. So this week I covered the Great American Bash, which is an interesting topic because when you think how long the Bashes went and how many promotions have promoted the Great American Bash, from the NWA to WCW to WWE brought it back, and now it's an NXT event. So very diverse history that I think it's fun to kind of tie eras together with a common theme.
Boy, did you pull me in with that clip of Rey Mysterio's first match with Dean Malenko in the article I posted from you today.
It's insane.
Just listen to Mike Tenay and Dusty Rhodes and Tony Schiavone comment on it.
And to see what the cruiserweight style, how I remembered it in 96 compared to what it actually was, it was a lot slower and more wrestling based than I remember it being.
Yeah.
I think
Dean will make that happen, but yeah.
Yes.
There was less of that maybe with Psychosis and, Ray when they battled. Yeah.
But interesting, interesting to watch that stuff.
And part of what made the cruiserweight style work, by the way, is it wasn't just a bunch of high flyers.
Yeah.
It was a mix of styles. It was one of the, Dean Malenko was instrumental in that. Jerry Lynn did his style. I mean, there were different people who had different styles, and some had some high flying moves, but it was a battle of styles that made some of the matches really work and made it feel like more than just the an acrobatic sideshow.
Amen.
Malenko was an anchor in that way.
Competition. It felt like competition, not choreography.
Yep. And I've written this before. It was decades ago when I would do this, when I talk about I've done ever since, but initially, even when it happened, I was like, part of one of the most underrated reasons for Nitro's success in overtaking Raw is the contemporary forward-leaning in-ring style. It wasn't just Hulk Hogan turning heel or the NWO, it was all, and by the way, it's all those things. I don't mean to discount them. It was the production values being upped. It was being live. It was the brash commentary of Eric Bischoff that kind of just said, whoa, this company's serious. Fans want to know if they're going to they're going to switch allegiances. They want to feel like there's a swagger, and Bischoff had a swagger for some people to a fault, but it was the right voice in that moment. But the cruiserweight style was contemporary, and it made wrestling in the ring cool again. in a way that it hadn't been. And the heavyweights in WCW weren't doing that. I mean, they were cool in their personalities, but the athleticism, I still think if you strip the cruiserweights away from WCW Nitro, I think there's a significantly different story told in terms of the ratings battle.
As a fan, I remember I watched the first hour of Nitro, and that was my favorite hour of Nitro because it had more of the good wrestling.
Yep.
The last hour was the stuff you stayed tuned for, and then were felt disappointed by the end. But the first hour was the good stuff.
Yeah. Yep. And, Pillman and Liger, I mean, they were making statements early on about what the show is going to be about compared to WWE. All right. If you want to be part of the conversation, join us live on YouTube. If you're listening to us on the podcast side of things, the audio side, that's most of you. You're invited to join us on YouTube since we're starting earlier because Raw was earlier because they're taping SmackDown right now. It's a double taping in Atlantic City. You we'd love to hear from some new people in the chat and live callers too. But you're always invited to join us anytime that it fits for your schedule. We go live after Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown. I host the shows every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday night. We also have our live NXT post show with Nate Lindbergh and Kelly Wells. And we go live after PLEs and pay-per-views, like after last night's AEW pay-per-view with Brian and JD. Check that out. If you haven't yet, search PWTorch in your podcast app and subscribe to the PWTorch Daily Cast. We also have some free samples of VIP shows, by the way, on the charcoal gray logo show, I call it. That when you search PWTorch, 2 logos pop up. The Daily Cast, which is colorful, the charcoal gray logo, has free samples of VIP exclusive shows. So we put a couple up in the last week. It's worth searching for that and looking at what's up on that feed. Within that feed, if you're using the native app on your iPhone, the native podcast app, you can actually unlock all the VIP shows using your Apple account. One of the it's a frictionless way to go VIP, which is like a fingerprint on your phone. In 10 seconds from now, you can be unlocking all our VIP shows. So if you're on an iPhone using the native app, that's a good way to do it. Otherwise, you can subscribe to VIP membership and get the post pay-per-view and PLE roundtables that I hosted exclusively for VIP members Saturday afternoon after Night of Champions and late Sunday night after AEW's Forbidden Door. The way to go VIP is by going to PWTorchVIPinfo.com, PWTorchVIPinfo.com. There's a graphic on the screen right now also that talks about the details, but if you're listening to us on the podcast side, we invite you to go VIP. PWTorch.com, or excuse me, PWTorchVIPinfo.com takes you to the latest lineup of VIP features. If you're watching us live, join us in the chat. As I said, you can also call us. The link to be a caller is in my TV report. Go to PWTorch, look up my Raw report, and in there is a link, and you can be a caller. We've got Ian, Darrell, and Coleman all in line to join us on tonight's show. You can be fourth in line if you log on now. And then finally our email, wadekellerpostshow@gmail.com, wadekellerpostshow@gmail.com. A lot of you can't join us live. You listen to us on the podcast side. Maybe you watch the show live, but don't watch our show live. That's how you can be part of the show, wadekellerpostshow@gmail.com. That's also a way to type in a question that's longer than you can get in the chat, and you have a better chance to be on the show if you email us than if you're part of the crowded chat room right now. Okay, so I said I'd throw some chats up before we go to calls. Here's what people are saying about tonight's show, Derrick. Some interesting comments. First of all, a lot of concurrence with us. Mika Current says, see what I did there? Seth has a great promo. Had a great promo, in my opinion. Mark Biscetti says, do you really want to see another Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins match? How many times have they been in the ring? Atlasphere, let me know how to pronounce, how you want us to pronounce your handle. I don't know if I'm guessing right or not, Atlasphere. Seth's promo and wardrobe were both well above their normal performances. You pointed that out, Derrick, and it's just wardrobe and body language and demeanor. It can be underrated sometimes, but it ought not be. Derek Mitchell says, I'm not sure what people were getting after Brock and Opa's announcement for SummerSlam and Hell in a Cell match. The next logical match was Seth versus Roman. Yeah, and I would say, too, there's been, I talked about, well, if they do Oba Brock, if they don't then do Roman versus the winner of Oba Brock or whatever, if they don't do double duty for Oba, I was thinking, well, Jacob Fatu could turn on Roman, turn heel, or Roman could turn heel on on Jacob Fatu. And that was an option. Jey Uso could have beaten Oba thanks to Brock, and then Jey could have chosen Roman and said, Roman, you tell me to go after Cody? I'm going to go after you. I want to be head of the table. I don't want to be on the other end of the table. They didn't do that either. So this was an option that I think was talked about less, but the groundwork was laid for it to be turnkey with a good promo. Derrick Mitchell says, Seth is the perennial number 2 guy, but I thought his promo was concise and to the point tonight on why he's challenging Roman for the title he never lost. I actually think he should have hit that harder too, Derrick.
Yeah, agreed.
I wonder if he forgot that bullet point. It seemed like he was leading into it, and then I wonder if he skipped a couple bullet points that he was supposed to cover.
Yeah, and you mentioned it as well. I'm surprised he didn't bring up the fact that he beat Braun Breaker in a cage match.
Yeah, those are kind of the 2 bullet points I was anticipating him saying, and he never got around to it.
And I was surprised. I mean, I watched Night of Champions this morning because I was gone over the weekend, and I was surprised that Seth won in such a definitive fashion.
Yeah,
like there was no and but or maybe. I mean, it was strong, and you know, kudos to them for showing the courage to beat a guy clean, to set up the other guy as a more logical challenger, number 1 contender for a big
more imminent.
Yeah,
more imminent challenger. Yeah, we'll talk about what's going on with the Vision too, if that even exists anymore. It's quite the night for them. Super chat from Derrick. Thank you so much, Derrick, for the super chats. Much appreciated. Rollins has been Reigns' kryptonite because he frequently has gotten the better of Reigns in high-stakes PLE and championship matches. The last time they had a one-on-one match was Royal Rumble 2022. Seth won by DQ. What do you make of the lore of the history, Derrick, of Seth and Roman? What do you think the fan perception is? How do you feel about how Seth framed it? And do you like that being a hook for this match?
I like it being a hook because I think it's the central theme of the story more than anything. And, you know, obviously when someone tells their version of the story, they leave certain things out. But the way that Seth presented it, it's not lying. It's just looking at it as in a favorable fashion, where the omission is the times that Roman got the best of him. But I think if you look through their history and the Shield lore, Seth has gotten the better of Roman on most of the occasions. And I think they drew into that tonight. Very strong central bullet point of the promo. And that gives Roman a reason to, as he said, I don't want to beat you. I need to beat you. And you could kind of hear right when he said that, in the dramatic fashion that he said that line, the fans reacted to it, which means they understand what the story is, and they have a memory of of the different chapters of the story.
Was Seth claiming that Roman had never beat him, or what was your takeaway from the context of how Seth framed their history in the ring in terms of outcomes?
I think the only thing he glossed over, and he once again, he kind of manipulated the fact on it, is the tag match with The Rock and Roman against Cody and Seth. Cody and Seth lost that match.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't talk about that. He talked about the fact that he was kind of the agitator in the night 2 main event that allowed Cody to win the title and complete the story. So that was the omission that I think was kind of glaring. But as for Roman beating Seth in a one-on-one match, I don't think it ever has happened. At least to my memory, I don't think it's occurred. So once again, if it has occurred, obviously he didn't bring it up, but I don't think it's happened.
I'm looking at, I asked ChatGPT for the history, and that is flawed. So, I mean, obviously, I've gotten some crazy results, including them telling me the biggest WrestleMania match ever was Steve Austin against Hulk Hogan once. So I don't trust. But it threw up September 5th. Okay, September 15th, 2014. Roman Reigns beat Seth with a spear. No, that's screwed up. I'm not even going to go with this. So, chat, help us out. Bring up. Do some research, because I can't while I'm live podcasting here, where what clean finishes with these two one-on-one are there? I mean, DQ finishes, I think that those don't count. Multi-person matches, whatever, tag match, just one-on-one, clean, decisive finishes, pinfall, submission, not DQ. What do we have between these two? Because it felt to me like Seth was leaning into, you have not proven dominance over me. You have not beat me, but it sort of implied when it counts on a big show or something like that. So it kind of, but I don't have enough of a memory to just recall exactly what that history is in matches that Seth would be referring to that would justify framing it the way that he did. So I'll throw it out there that way.
And to Derrick Mitchell's point, the last time they faced off in a one-on-one match was at the Rumble 2022, and I watched it not too long ago. Seth shows up in the field in the Shield gear to agitate and get in Roman's head, and he kind of baits Roman the whole match was the story.
Yeah.
And during his reign of terror, which Seth pointed to tonight, that was a match that Roman didn't go over and pin Seth. It ended in DQ. So that is truth right there.
Vinny Guacan says Roman beat him on Raw in 2017. I think I'm looking this up online. May 29th, 2017, Reigns won clean with a spear. And ChatGPT for what it's worth says it is Roman's most notable clean televised singles win over Rollins. So it seems like that does exist. It was on Raw, not a big WrestleMania moment, not a big, a big moment match that is historically remembered, except by Vinny, apparently. All right, so I highlighted some more comments here that I'll get into. Vinny Guan says, when Rollins is serious, he's so much more compelling. Yep, absolutely. Sadler Version 3, regular in the chat, says, serious Seth is a very good promo. Yeah. Atlas Fear says, this makes Seth beating Braun slightly make more sense. I think it makes it make a lot more sense, more than slightly. I mean, I wasn't totally against it, but I thought it was sort of a head tilt, like, okay, what's going on here? And now we obviously have the answer. Darrell says Seth needed to talk people into the building, but they didn't. The fans can sing people in the building. I mean, it remains to be seen. I mean, we'll keep an eye on ticket sales and see if things surge and move now that there's some concrete matches. I don't know if they need to announce which night these matches are taking place on. If fans have a budget and can only pick one night or the other, they might be holding out for that information too. WWE could be kind of outsmarting themselves, trying to trick people into buying both nights because you don't know when you're going to get a match. And instead, they're like, we're only going one night. I'm not buying a ticket till I know that I can see the match I want to see.
I like the bell-to-bell matchup for both Roman and Seth as well. I think they're good dance partners for each other, especially this new style that Roman has, which I love his new style because it's very deliberate. But, I mean, watch his match with CM Punk and even the first match he had with Jacob Fatu. Everything has meaning.
Yep.
It's paced so well. They have dramatic points in the match. And Seth is the guy who can bring just a little more energy and a little more of a dynamic influence to that to take it from really good to great. And with that storied history, and I think they trust each other, I think that's a good matchup which can make a satisfying bell-to-bell main event.
I hope, and I expect that Roman, compared to some opponents, most opponents, I won't say all, but would look at Seth and go, I mean, they say brother sarcastic. He says brother sarcastically with a little bitterness or whatever on TV, and they're not best of friends outside the ring. But I think there'll be a respect of Seth. You want to have this kind of match? Yeah, I'm not going to say you have to have my kind of match. Let's blend our styles. Like I think he will. Roman has more pull than Seth, but I think Roman would grant Seth a little bit more of a type of match that you're talking about, Derek. Just a little bit more speed, density of moves. But at the same time, I hope Seth respects what Roman does works, which is not just doing a bunch of moves to do them. So yeah, it could be magic in the sense that it'll be a blend. It'll be a blend of both styles that'll kick things up for Roman, but also tame Seth a little bit from some excesses.
Yeah, and I think the only match I can think of Roman Reigns is in the last 5 years that I thought was low expectations, and in this case it was very low expectations, was his match against Jey Uso. And I felt in that match he was just way too comfortable doing very little. And I think that's where guys get that it's the Hogan formula. He's where this is what I do, and the fans eat from the palm of my hand all the time, except in the middle of a match when they're not. And then you don't have the will to really turn it up. And that was his match against Jay at SummerSlam a few years back, which was very disappointing. And in his other main event matches, I think he understands, I'm going to wrestle my style, which is very deliberate, but I'm also going to bring the aggression and those other elements of the guy I'm wrestling to make a really strong in-ring performance. That was the CM Punk match to a T.
Yep. Super chat from Derrick. Rollins. Oh, wait. No, I read that. Okay, let me start that. Let me move on to the next one here. That's another one we hit. Adam Kidd said Seth made me want to see the match. Derek says Seth versus Roman makes sense if they're not putting Oba in the title match. It does. It is turnkey. It's always been turnkey. It's always been available for them. Yeah. Then let's see. Safik says, I'm the furthest thing from a fan of Seth, but this is the first time in several years I've been interested in something he says. And part of it is the way he said it. Yeah. Then we have an I told you so. Vinny says, I told you they weren't going to do Roman versus Oba at SummerSlam. They're saving it for Mania 43. Then Vinny says Roman Seth would be a great match. Only their third PLE match. And the others were Money in the Bank 2016 and Rumble 2022. And let's see. Serious Seth is a very good promo. I think I read that earlier. Derrick says Rollins is confident in confronting because in his mind, he always has had Roman's number. And Cavanti Small says, I wonder how they'll make Seth versus Roman feel fresh since they've wrestled a lot over the last few years. Yeah, I don't know if that's...
Yeah, I don't think it's as much as we assume.
Because
they've always been attached, but they've been attached from afar.
Yeah, and it feels like Seth has been talking about wanting to face Roman the last few years, but he hasn't. Like, it's been something that's been talked about a lot, but we haven't had it. Okay, so Derrick says Rollins claiming Reigns over beat him was like when Andre was undefeated in 15 years. Reigns' last time beating Rollins was the May 29th, 2017 Raw. Yep, so there we have the date. Okay, so I know there's more chat comments, but let's get to calls, and let's start with Coleman because he's not a regular, so this time frame might work better for him. Coleman, are you ready for us? I see his screen is turned off. Coleman, there you are. Hey, man, how's it going?
What's going on? This is the first time I called in a long time. I've been a PWTorch subscriber for years, and this is the first time I ever had the opportunity to get on. So how y'all doing?
Doing great. Good to see you. Good to hear from you. Thanks for calling in.
No problem. Funny story, real quick. I became a VIP member. Do you remember when Daniel Bryan went on his WrestleMania run? You put up a promo for like 50% off for whatever months. And I joined. I was already a free subscriber and I joined and I haven't left since then. It's crazy.
Awesome. But, well, that's great.
Yeah.
That's why you do sales, you know?
But yeah, so I'm just going to start with the final part of the show since we already on that.
Yeah.
And I do want to agree with a lot of people that's in the chat. Seth Rollins honestly is a great talent. He if he's more focused, like if he stays streamlined on what he wants to do, I think he's a great performer. Unfortunately, for the last couple of years, we have been getting the sing-along Seth Rollins. He wants to be a heel, but he wants to play to the crowd. Then when he plays to the crowd, he wants to do something heelish. He leaves the people conflicted. And I think this was the first time where he came out. Yeah, you would give the crowd to get a chance to get hype, give a pop, sing the song, but he was straight to the point. And the message that he delivered was what we needed. I think by Oba, we're gonna get on that. By Oba picking Lesnar, I feel that he was the next in line because we have to remember he never lost his belt.
Yeah,
he never lost his belt. He got an injury, and CM Punk won the belt due to a tournament.
Yep.
So he has a stake. He has a claim. He beat Braun, so you can't say that the last person beat me. Should get this fight. He has a claim in the fight, so that's why I think after the Oba decision that it made perfect sense.
Yeah,
Derrick, comment on that.
I agree, and I think I agree with Coleman's statement about Seth Rollins. He seems more mature this go around, and that's like he's not begging with his costumes or with his mannerisms for fans to get involved. He's got like a confidence and dignity to who he is now, and that's maturity, maybe as a person, but more so as a character. And as you move into that, final or next to final stage, I think that's kind of what we expect. It's kind of like Shawn Michaels towards the end. There was still semblance of the Heartbreak Kid, but it was a mature Heartbreak Kid that had kind of left behind some of the immature aspects of his character that had been flaunted and were, front and center for years.
I think it was character awareness finally kicking in.
Yeah. And confidence. And confidence in who you are, that you don't need to stick out by being something that might not be as true to yourself as you want others to think it is.
or maybe the end of stubbornness, that he thought he was doing something good, and now he realizes, okay, it's time to outgrow that. That really was kind of cringe. I mean, it just could be him. He might have had a sunk cost fallacy or a stubbornness, and now he's like, yeah, I can't really play that character. If I want to make a match against Roman feel like a big deal in a big stadium, I need to have gravitas. I need to be serious. I need to drop the ha-ha and the, Elton John or whatever comparisons we make.
I feel like you got to sell the fight, and I think that's what he did. He sold the fight. He gave a reason, and this is what happens when we negotiate or we go after something that we want. We got to give you a reason why I should give you something that you want. And he came in there with with multiple points, and he pretty much fed his ego. That's the whole Roman Reigns persona right now. He's once again WWE was giving us conflicted characters, but the most consistent thing that he always had is his ego, and he fed his ego. He pretty much, like he said, I'm giving you something that you don't have. You got everything in the world, Roman. I'm giving you something that you don't have. Now you will look like a coward if you turn this down. So it was a great point.
Yeah, and I looked at it too, like he's selling his point of view to Roman Reigns, and by doing so, he's actually selling it to the fans as well. Yep. Right, this is a really big deal. And I think sometimes that's the most effective thing, because we feel like we're just watching a conversation or a debate between two guys, when in really that debate is not only for them trying to get counterpoints on each other, it's to get everybody else, kind of like a political debate. You're debating your opponent, but you're appealing to an audience. And that's what they were that's what Seth was doing with his promo tonight.
Vinny in the chat goes, I like how they're making it feel like the end of an era. This is the biggest one-on-one match they've had against each other in their careers. True. This promo needed to be presented this way to make it feel that way. And I think 2026, at their ages, 40-ish years old, you can talk about a decade and a half of history. That's when you can sell a match with that framing. They couldn't have done this at a different time. I also don't think they could have done it without Obafemi being an up-and-comer. Without clearly this phenom that is the leader of this next generation. He said men and women too, which was nice that Seth said that. There's this whole other crop of people who are coming up through the ranks. Now that you can kind of see the next generation that's going to take over, Javon and Trick and Braun, Cody's sort of a bridge, and hasn't been around as long on top as Seth and Roman, so it feels like there's more for him. But you have AJ Styles retiring, you got Sammy with sort of a last hurrah, framing like time was running out for him. It feels like something is wrapping up and something else is preparing to take its place, and that vibe, that feeling was I think essential for Seth's tone to work tonight in telling Roman, we got to get to this, and it matters and it's big. Let's do it when it still counts.
Agreed.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I mean, you look at the last couple of champions. No offense, where's CM Punk?
Yeah,
and he was a workhorse for a year, but you can't put all that weight on his shoulders. Seth Rollins' body is breaking down. I mean, he's getting hurt every once in a while. You can't put all the weight on his shoulders. Roman clearly doesn't want all that weight on his shoulders because he's part-time majority of the time. So you got to put the new crop in. It's got to. The business, that's the only way the business is going to survive. And I'm glad that they're saying that, because I think a lot of the fans that's on here are very smart, and they are aware, thanks to the reports and stuff like that. But I think a lot of the fans that are very casual, they're not aware that they just want to see the superstars, but they got to understand new superstars got to take the mantle.
Yep, they have to be ready though, and I think that's what's magic now is they appear like they're ready or close. They're ready to get a chance to go to the next level.
Okay.
And you don't want to have this match where it feels like you're taking it from someone who deserves it. That's, like a lot of older generations feel like they're protecting their turf. They're using their political clout. They're hanging on too long. In real sports, wins and losses take care of that. You start losing. Golden State Warriors are not perennial champs anymore. LeBron probably not going to be in the Lakers. If he is, they're not probably going to win. Like, eventually you just age out. There's new people coming up. In wrestling, politics and drawing power and competence on the microphone and the trust of the promoter to tell the story and hype it well sometimes outlasts fan interest in it, or it hangs on long enough that it starts displacing something that that deserves to be in the spotlight. And so there is something about this feeling believably so. And I'm not saying Seth won't be around for a few more years. He very well might be. But a lot of wear and tear, a lot of injuries. Maybe not a lot of tread left on the tire. We could also be talking about him 10 years from now, just working a part-time schedule, CM Punk-esque. But still with Roman, he's got enough money, and, we know he doesn't want to be on the road full time. And so, he may retire and go into Hollywood or just not want to work out anymore. As Randy Orton said, he can't wait to not be a wrestler anymore so he can eat carbs and simple carbs and junk food. He's so tired of having to worry about looking good in small wrestling trunks. He can copy other people and just start like Sting and wear a big oversized T-shirt for a decade and a half. But anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
Can I mention something about the opening? I know.
Yeah, let's do it.
Sure
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it. Yeah.
Watching the show, I felt very conflicted because even though I love the final promo and it made sense, it was just the beginning for me, because I know if you want to move Oba out the way without hurting him, Seth is the best logic. But in my head, I'm thinking, WWE, you're doing it again. You about to have the fans conflicted again. You're going to place your biggest wrestler that you have on your roster right now against Brock Lesnar in his hometown. So here we go again. You about to split the crowd at 50-50. And the thing about it is, watching King of the Ring Saturday, what was the point of it? If this is how you're going to go, you still have Jay going to SmackDown to see the champion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He won it. Oba won it, and he didn't even pick Roman. It's like you could have just found a way to make Jay Hilly win the match and still have Oba strong, and you're still getting the same results. What I thought was going to happen, me personally, I thought Oba was going to win. He would have faced Brock at Madison Square Garden. He faces Roman, and Roman somehow, some way wins the match with Jacob Fatu somehow jumping in there, and then that starts the chase. That starts the chase for Oba having a legit reason why he's upset that he didn't win a title, and that starts the chase for Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber. Because I know somebody in the chat said they're setting it up for WrestleMania, but how long are you going to hold it over? Because you got to remember, Royal Rumble winner got to pick a winner. The Elimination Chamber has to pick a winner.
Mm-hmm.
What's the point of having Oba winning one of those things when he still got the King of the Ring match in the bag? You know what I'm saying? So it's like I don't know. I just feel like they're stumping on his momentum about having Brock Lesnar fight him. Brock Lesnar in Minnesota. Like, why would you do that against the hometown? He's going to get cheered.
See, I'm not worried about Oba and Brock at SummerSlam. I think especially how Brock works those type of matches, he doesn't really work prolonged heat on a babyface to build sympathy. He just kind of trucks through them. It's going to be a truck versus truck match, much like the two matches they've done, where I don't think no matter if Brock gets some cheers, I don't think it's going to take away from the cheers that Oba's going to get when he conquers the Beast. I think it'll be that big fight feel where it'll be short enough and it will be impactful enough where people won't get a chance to slow down the momentum. It's going to be a train wreck, in a good way that people want to see. What I'm worried about, and it kind of goes to your point, Coleman, is after Oba beats Brock in Hell in a Cell, which I like that it's in Hell in a Cell because that allows for a definitive, no ands, ifs, or buts about it, strong finish. Maintaining Oba's momentum for 6 months going into the Royal Rumble, that's the challenge. And I hope they have a plan to maintain the momentum. Otherwise, I think they're making a bad decision by holding off and not just having him beat Roman at SummerSlam. 6 months can be a long time. And for a guy like Oba, you can't just get the challenger of the month because we expect him to roll through them. So he has to have some kind of hills that he has to climb over. Building up those hills to climb over is tough for a guy who's been presented as physically dominant as Oba Femi. So that's my concern.
It's what I coined the Oba Femi problem months ago when it just became clear when he got called up, and you could tell he was not going to be some Braun Strowman kind of novelty act off to the side in the third from the top match. Like, he's getting over. He has all the traits you need for a top guy. Now, how do you have enough opponents to feed him? How do you slot him? Fans are going to cheer him. Of course, he's going to be babyface. So where do you find the heels to face him? and or take advantage of how popular he is at the beginning of his main roster run, when he's got a long path to go as a top guy. Coleman, go ahead.
I'm about to say, I pray, even though I gave that scenario for SummerSlam, I pray that they, since they already chose their route, that he cashes in his King of the Ring before January the 1st. Hopefully they might do the first Raw. They're gonna need a fight. They might do the first Raw, and I hope that Roman wins, but by outside interference, by a Jacob Fatu or a Solo Sikoa, that you eventually kind of see it coming down the pipeline where he's already lost the MFTs, and I just hope that we need Oba on that chase. We just can't have Oba just flat out win and get the belt. We need a chase. That's what sells the stories. That's what sells that's wrestling. We got to have that story and that journey.
I'll argue with that a little bit. I think some guys are better on the chase, but I think people who are physically dominant, it's not always about the chase. It's about the time on top. And I think in my life, I never saw Hogan's chase, right? Mm-hmm. Never really saw Warriors chase. They were on the top, and then they built up hills for them to beat to stay at the top of the mountain. And that was a formula that I think fits more Obafemi. The chase is to me is for the babyface who's kind of been an undercard, and you see him kind of work his level up, because then you get behind him. It's like watching a rookie in the NBA who takes a few years to develop, and then they really start hitting their stride. You really want them to win that championship. There's those other guys who hit and they're a phenom, and you almost expect them to be the best player in the league in 1 or 2 years. And Oba, I think you almost expect him to be the best player in the league in 6 months, and then you start building up challengers and start putting some jeopardy on him. And that's how he stays at the top. That's kind of the story.
So would you rather see Oba going into WrestleMania with the title around his waist?
I'm a sucker for, you want to win your first championship on a big stage.
Okay.
And so
Derrick, would you have voted for SummerSlam then? Would you? If you could revise this, yeah. I mean, because I want to get to that. Like, they could have done Brock versus Oba at MSG at Saturday's main event. I know, Paul Heyman is, connected to Brock, and he's framing this as the biggest match ever. And that's his job to do that. And he has the latitude and the approval, obviously, of Paul Levesque to refer to it as that, which is framing it as bigger than the championships. And that's a little dangerous. It is just Paul Heyman saying it. The company is not getting behind it as an official line. So I don't have a problem with it in that sense. But Oba versus Roman for the championship is a bigger match, because it's for one of the two championships. It would mean more if there's only one, but there's pros and cons to that. Having, and as you said, Derrick, the first title win in a big setting, that's a beautiful stadium. Will it have 60,000 people in it? That remains to be seen. It's in the 30s, I think, now. But it'll still look good. They're going to get a lot more people in there, and they'll pick good camera angles and all that. That's a big setting. I mean, it is a gorgeous NFL stadium, regarded as the best in the league. It's going to be, the scenery that they show of the stadium and downtown and the Riverside. It's not like a small arena. It would have a big feel. And SummerSlam's the other big show of the year in terms of a traditional format. So what you're saying, Derrick, is true. And and then Coleman, if it isn't, and it obviously appears it won't be at SummerSlam, then if you wait to WrestleMania, it comes with some downside. You can try to build anticipation. I am curious to find out reliably if this was an audible because of ticket sales, or a conundrum that came up in discussions, are like, well, we're going to do this, but I think this is better. If we are seeing some changes from what was originally penciled in, and we hear that that comes up every WrestleMania, and then sometimes there's pushback about guest reporting, as I call it, where sometimes it can become kind of the people default to it being the truth, even if it hasn't been confirmed reliably. So I'll do my best to kind of try to dig around and find that out. But this doesn't, to me, feel like this is what they were locked in on 6 weeks ago. Yeah. Because of some of what Coleman, I think it was you brought it up, like, why win King of the Ring if you're not going to cash in at SummerSlam? And that is a problem we haven't spent much time on, which is now Oba is saying the title will always be there. Well, I mean, so will Brock. I mean, Like
the title that's the number one prize.
Yeah, I mean,
you can always fight Brock after. It made zero sense.
We could have led with that, Derrick. We could have led the show. I chose to lead with Seth and Roman, arbitrarily, but I could have led with, so the title will be there whenever I want to get it. Like, that's sort of arrogant and dismissive. And I also thought Oba saying, that was a reception for a ruler, but what about one for a king? I don't think he delivered it the right way. It kind of came across like, no, I need more cheers because I have reached a higher status. And I thought that was actually a bad look for him too. So I just, not a huge deal. I didn't think it was just passed by, but I think it's worth a critique afterwards that maybe there's some things Oba's doing that might be seen as missteps. The title will always be there. I want to deal with a grudge instead of a championship. And fans are like, And also, why did we invest in King of the Ring if it's not going to be what they advertised it as all this time? Derrick, go ahead.
So I have two questions that I'm pondering myself, so I'll ask to you guys, trying to take my own opinion and perspective out of it. So do you think that there is a large group of fans that think Oba and Brock in a Hell in a Cell is a bigger match than Oba versus Roman? And then my second question is, do you think that Oba winning at SummerSlam is equivalent to Oba beating Roman at WrestleMania, knowing that WrestleMania is in Saudi Arabia this year, which does create a different dynamic?
Yeah. Coleman, what do you think?
Oh, you didn't even. Oh, I forgot about that. That is not even in the United States.
That's what. Yeah. Coleman, Adam Kidd said in chat, I didn't like him just passing up the title match, and so that's what we're saying. But Adam Kidd also says, what about winning it at the Rumble? Now that's a big show. That's a big. Is that a big enough show that kind of splits the difference? Okay, we'll get our SummerSlam match, but we'll get to the Rumble, and that keeps. Oba can then have an excuse to not enter the Rumble because he has a title match in his pocket. That's essentially a Money in the Bank in a way, except not cashing in impromptu, but he can, dictate when he wants it. It seems like that's the implication tonight. So then he just goes after Roman at the Rumble, and then the Rumble winner faces the winner of that match. But that takes Oba versus Roman off the table for Mania, because I don't think, unless then the Rumble winner goes after the other belt, and then either Roman or Oba win the Elimination Chamber. So I guess there is a path to still get to a rematch. So anyway, throw that out there. Go ahead, Coleman.
No, I was you did lay out a good layout with the Royal Rumble, but like I said, I forgot about WrestleMania not even being in the United States. So like your second biggest show is SummerSlam. I know we love the Royal Rumble, but the Royal Rumble, the main event and the main character of the Royal Rumble is the Royal Rumble. Mm-hmm. So do you want to Bigfoot your main stipulation? So I think SummerSlam was it. I honestly believe that Roman Reigns versus Oba right now is the biggest prize fight that you have. If you're WWE and you're worried about selling tickets, you go ahead and put that in the books right now. You let people know that it is night 2. I don't care what it is. The main event is night 2. You know the amount of people that will fly across the country to go make their way to Minnesota? Hell, I've never been to Minnesota, but I would think about going.
Yeah.
It's the biggest fight that you got. And we always every year, when we get to right after the Royal Rumble, we always talk about that big drag layout from the period of Royal Rumble to WrestleMania. Like, how are we going to get here? We got to make these stories last for months and months, and it's a drag. Do you want to kill that man momentum going through that drag?
Yeah, and I worry more about that drag from Oba beats Brock at SummerSlam, Hell in a Cell, big crowning victory. And then I'm just like, what opponents does he face for the next 5 months if he's not going to win the belt from Roman? And is there a big enough stage from August until January?
It's almost 6 months. April? Almost all of August, September, October, November, December, and most of January. I don't have the date in front of me right now, but almost a half a year.
So who keeps him occupied? And the way they run their stories, you really only need 2 guys, but those 2 guys have to be matchups that pose a significant threat to his dominance. Jacob Fatu, maybe, and then I got nothing else. So that's a concern, because that's when your momentum drags, which not only does that hurt Oba, but it hurts the product as a whole.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'm gonna get off because I know it's other callers, but it was an honor and a pleasure to finally get to speak to y'all. I mean, like I said, I'm a faithful listener every day. This is the only way I can keep up with my wrestling. I can't watch every show. I got a life, so yeah, I live it through y'all. So it's an honor and pleasure. Hopefully, we can do it again.
Awesome, thank you, Coleman. Appreciate you calling, and hopefully it works out again for you to call sometime.
All right.
Again, yeah, good contribution.
Coleman.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks. You're my new friend, Coleman.
Appreciate it.
Sweet. All right. Let's bring Ian onto the show next. Ian, thanks for holding. What's on your mind about tonight's show? Definitely interested to get your thoughts. You are one of our longest tenured callers, even if there's been a break. When we post our best of shows, I mean, they're, Ian Frattesi. Oh, wow. I don't know when you first called in. Coleman is talking about his history, but yeah, you're one of the longest tenured callers.
I think it was back in like 2018, 2019 was when I first called in.
Man, I would have thought it went back further than that.
No, I don't know.
I mean, I'll trust your memory more than mine, but I feel like we hear you in 10 years ago shows now.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
That'd be 2016.
Yeah. I might have called in earlier. I probably just don't remember it.
Yeah,
I just remember calling in during Kofi Mania and Kurt Angle's retirement. So
yeah. All right. Well, anyway,
but
go ahead.
I don't hate Oba, quote unquote, giving it up because I think, and I know Wade is always busy. You guys could be forgetting that we have Money in the Bank in October this year, so they could have Oba beat Brock at SummerSlam, have Roman beat Seth at SummerSlam, and then do Roman Oba at Money in the Bank to sell tickets for that show in New Orleans. They have done bigger matches on Money in the Bank to kind of get more eyes on the PLEs.
Yeah, good to introduce that. Yeah, that's a good point. It is a shakeup in the schedule.
And I was thinking about what Derrick said. Who could Oba face? I mean, injuries. Not a factor. He could face Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed for a few months. He could have, if Ilya Dragunov was to ever come back from his ACL injury, whenever that's supposed to happen, if they hadn't moved Gunther to SmackDown, I would have said, give me Oba Gunther for about 6 months up to a year. That'll give you some good matches. But do you think...
they could do that. I mean, no one's married to their brand permanently. I mean, it's so informal now. Yeah.
My thinking process was, there's the big rumor online of Brock beating Sammy at Saturday Night's Main Event and then making Oba Brock for that title. What do you think of that happening? If they do that.
Yeah. I mean, Javier texted me earlier and was, thinking, what if Brock, Kofi's Sammy, and just kind of turns that into a transition. And it could just happen on TV too. It doesn't have to be a Saturday Night's Main Event. It's I don't know if it's guest reporting or source reporting. But it's I was gonna say fun speculation, but it might be heartbreaking speculation. I don't know how many people want to see that, but it is still. What I'm worried about is WWE has overextended themselves with back-to-back stadium shows on 2 nights. They set the course for that when they were hottest, jack up the prices, tougher economy, a market, even though it's beautiful or overly hot in Minnesota in early August. It's not Las Vegas. It's not New York. It's not, whatever, a traditional kind of tourist destination where people go, I'm going to make a whole weekend of it. Although there's tons of cool stuff to do in the summer in Minneapolis and St. Paul. But I get that they might have just overstretched. And what I'm worried about now is, are they going to book in a way that's trying to make up for overextending their ability to charge what they charge and sell that many tickets in a non coastal market, and I don't know the answer to that. But if Brock squashes Sammy and then is the champion for the Hell in a Cell, does that help sell more tickets, Derrick? And by the way, just what do you think of that speculation /rumor?
I hate it. Bad. No, I do hate it, because the Sammy story to me is, I think that derails the Sammy story, which is the most interesting story on television because it's multi-layered, and I think the performances have been so strong. So I don't listen to a lot of online speculation, but I hope that one is completely fabricated, because it would be somewhat heartbreaking, not only because I would feel bad for Sammy that he was just a pawn, But also, I think it derails really good work that him, Cody, and Gunther have been doing. I mean, I thought they've been fantastic on SmackDown, and they make that show worth watching. And having
Rodney
the title as the
Dangerfield's
center
Cody.
of that is kind of the
Rodney Dangerfield's Cody Rhodes again. I mean,
I
Cody
would
and
feel
Sammy
bad,
is a match you can absolutely put on SummerSlam with the story that they've built up. Other, I don't, So anyway, to me, I don't see another option for that title or another option for Cody unless they do something with Cody and Punk, because they've crossed paths and hinted at that. And that's again a turnkey thing they can do, but I don't know how excited people are going to be about it. But CM Punk is in the center of the SummerSlam poster. I mentioned that in last week's Pro Wrestling Torch newsletter cover story, where I wrote about what they might do to try to sell extra tickets. And if I can do this right, I mean, there's CM Punk right under Slam and SummerSlam. That's not an accident. Doesn't mean it's locked in, but I mean, it's not some intern randomly putting his favorite wrestlers on a poster. That goes through top tier people deciding who do we want there. So I think in any discussion about where do we go in the next 4 weeks, the 4.5 weeks, Punk and Cody can be a turnkey to make up for if Brock squashes Sammy in the meantime. Yeah. I
mean, that was my next thing. I mean, Raw is in Chicago next week. And, there's, I was thinking about it while you guys were talking to Coleman. What do they do with Punk for SummerSlam? If he is, the center of the poster, I hope they don't steer away from the one-on-one match with Seth, which I'm actually really excited for Roman and Seth. But I was looking at the roster. I'm like, who do you have Punk face for SummerSlam? Even if that is what they do.
Yeah, I mean, what is a Punk match if you are told he's going to be on the show in a significant match? Is there somewhere you drop him in that isn't, he's taking on Cody in a grudge match, or taking on Cody for a title that somehow Cody regains, or challenging Sammy and Cody's out of the picture, or it becomes a triple threat or four-way, or who are we missing? Derrick.
I don't know if we're missing anyone. Sans Randy Orton coming back. I think you got Randy Orton in the periphery, but there's a lot of guys right now. I mean, I think this is we talk about it and we question it, but that's kind of what makes the next 4 weeks leading into SummerSlam exciting. Is because now you got some tent poles that they've erected, and now we just want to see the other tent poles and pieces that they maneuver to really fill out 2 cards, which is quite the task. I mean, that's 12 to 14 matches, and right now we have 3. So that's a lot of work to be doing in the next 4 weeks. But as for the options that you laid out, Wade, the most appealing one to me is Punk versus Cody. But I don't think 4 weeks is enough time to tell that story and make it all it can be.
Yeah.
But I feel that way because they've had Punk off television for so long. Kind of feel that way with almost all of Punk's potential matches, unless you want to go back to Punk versus Breaker, because they kind of do have a history.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine.
Doesn't excite you.
Yeah. Just, and with 1 month to go, Jacob Fatu and Punk, and then you have who's getting cheered, and is Jacob losing steam I don't know. I mean, I'm just throwing stuff out there.
It was a choice to leave him off TV this long, though. So
yeah. Hopefully
it was the right choice.
Yeah, and then LA Knight and Solo have their thing going with the Usos, and that's kind of weird. Cole, it's a whole other topic. Cole talking about LA Knight's paranoid. They're talking about him being paranoid. It's like he's not. He's just speaking the truth. I don't. Why you're paranoid to not trust Solo or not want to work with him? I mean, come on, that's not paranoid. That's just processing who Solo has been and making a reasonable judgment call. So I don't know what to make of that either. And as we kind of piece together where everybody who's prominent on TV ends up landing, Mr. Freshman, by the way, in the chat goes, why would Brock beat Sammy? I'm not understanding why that's even a topic. I did join late, so please someone fill me in. Just online speculation. I'm going to blame Ian because usually I don't bring that stuff up. Because I want it to be, and I think it's worthy because we're just wildly speculating about the SummerSlam card, but that's why it got brought up. I mean, it's out there. People are talking about it, and we're spitballing anything that can make everything fall into place and sell tickets. We're trying to construct what we imagine would help sell more tickets in Minneapolis and get people to hop on a plane. And that's kind of what they're in that window to do that now. But it's good to point out Raw in Chicago, and that would seem like when Punk shows up. But yeah, Chat's not coming up with ideas either. 7-Eleven says, I think it's time for a Punk heel turn. Yeah.
He's the kind of character who's always been so nuanced that I think he's really hard to turn heel and get people to really boo him.
Yep.
So it's like you almost boo him out of respect if he's trying really hard to get you to boo him, but you don't feel it with your heart. The people who don't like him are the people who don't cheer him. and they're kind of set in their ways.
That's what I said about Randy during WrestleMania. I was like, it kind of feels forced to boo him. I didn't want to boo him.
And Randy didn't help.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. The official Mr. Coleman says definitely time for a Punk heel turn, and he should go against Cody. So there were. By the way, Derek Mitchell says, I don't see Brock beating Sammy. That's been recently reserved for the last 3 Black champions, Kofi, Lashley, and Big E. Yeah, I don't know how cognizant WWE management would be of that as a reason. Interesting. What about Punk versus Trick? Adam Kidd suggests. Do you have a heel turn in there? I mean, Trick's getting enough of a push. I don't know. I mean, I asked for suggestions. There is one. I think they'd have.
I mean, that's not the worst thing they could do in the world.
Yeah.
But I mean, the last thing I had was, the Vision. I don't like the idea of Braun having a big one-on-one steel cage match on a PLE to then, I don't want to say downgraded to the tag titles, but it just feels, I know they're kind of scraping for straws because like 75% of the Vision's hurt and they're still doing the thing with Maxine. I just don't know what they're doing with Braun Breaker. And I mean, that's another guy I was thinking is like, who is he going to face at SummerSlam? Because I'm sure he'll have a one-on-one match for something.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't come across like they're like focused on featuring him unless the story is without Heyman around. He's faltering. He's going to be upset. They turn him babyface, but I think you want him as a heel opponent for Oba, and you don't want him turning. Turns should be few and far between, not something you do for the convenience of one booking season. But I don't know. I mean, he has not come across as a generational transformative star hanging out with Logan Paul doing his comedy shtick now and Austin Theory, having his eye on a woman backstage and Paul Heyman not around and them, losing and everyone being injured. It's just, I don't know. I just don't know if it's a given that they are focused on making sure Breaker has something. I think they might, it's sort of, say sometimes there's a lost season in the NBA where you're just not tanking, but it's like, we're not gonna spend our money and we're just looking for a draft pick. And it's just we'll go after free agents or whatever. It almost feels like this might be a lost season for Breaker and really the whole Vision storyline, although we'll see, and we'll talk about that soon, I think, here on the show.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about Braun. It seems like not because of his performances, because I think in ring he's been quite good, but it seems like he's not getting as much protection and attention as he was getting last year at the same time, and even the year prior. So yeah, it's definitely like he's looks like he's dropping down the depth chart when it comes to importance.
Couple comments here before I throw it back to you, Ian. The official Mr. Coleman says, honestly, I'd say Punk for the night after Raw, start something new, or night after SummerSlam, I think he means. Start something new to get us through the fall season. Yep. And Derek Mitchell says, I can see Punk versus Cody being at odds where Cody thinks he deserves a rematch with Sammy. Then who does Sammy face? Or is he not even champ by then? Brock 7-Eleven says Brock winning the title MSG and putting over Oba again at SummerSlam seems like the perfect swan song for Brock. All right. Then as far as Punk, Trick Williams and CM Punk, Safik says, I like Punk Trick only because it would be something to get Trick away from doing catchphrases and sketch comedy. Yeah, I can imagine Punk going in and just eviscerating that. JC Scooby suggests CM Punk against Dirty Dom. I don't know if Dom's been portrayed in comedy. Dom's doing comedy right now. It'd be fun. Yeah. When you have Dom just like doing skits with Danhausen and JD and doing Knicks jersey stuff, I don't see it as turnkey. It feels like it just feels like he'd be fodder, kind of like he was for Oba.
I mean, Dom could handle it. I would think so. I mean, he's done serious stuff before.
Yep.
So
yeah. All right. Yeah. Go ahead, Ian. Anything else you want to bring up?
I mean, we could talk about Liv if you want to. I don't think she was that good tonight. I mean, obviously the Danhausen curse is going to be like either Liv getting kicked out of Judgment Day or Raquel and Roxanne finally turning on her. I just don't know where they're going to fully go with that, if that makes sense.
Derrick.
Yeah, I'm glad Liv finally got a significant match at Night of Champions. Her character is fully developed. I don't think her credibility bell to bell has been established. And I don't think that's been her fault because since she won the championship, she's not had to defend the title at all. And she finally got a significant match against Io, and I think she did a really good job. I wish she had a few more of those type matches under her belt to build some credibility, because now when she talks, like tonight's a good example in her promo, she's talking about how great she is, but I think myself and a lot of the fans are like, you haven't beat anybody since you've been champion, and your only notable match you just lost. So you're braggadocious without any evidence to suggest there's any truth to what you're saying. But as for her on the mic tonight, I thought she was annoying, as she's supposed to be, and she's not afraid to be that. I just hate the fact that she's doing athletic spots in high heels, which is just the stupidest thing in wrestling, and I wish to God they would stop. It looks like they're going to hurt themselves or hurt their opponent, and it just looks so awkward and bad. Why are you running in high heels? Stupid. Please stop. You're short. It's fine.
By the way, so I don't forget to bring it up, what do you think of the Spanish Fly spot with JD and Chad tonight? Derrick, as a former, Corey said it was one of the worst landings he's seen. JD kind of landed outside of his face. I thought Chad's landing seemed like what you would want. So what to your eye did you see there?
I thought initially when I saw the move, I thought it was scary. When they replayed it, I thought it was safe. I thought it was completely fine. They tucked, and it wasn't face-to-face contact. In fact, it was just JD's arm around Chad in almost like a rock bottom with a little more body-to-body contact. I thought the landing was actually perfect for impact and presentation without danger. I thought it was fine. Yeah,
I think at full speed it looked like JD just face planted in a way that kind of might have hurt his face and jarred his neck, but in slow-mo, it looked it did. And Corey, usually Corey Graves reserves that kind of reaction for things that legitimately, as a wrestler who's taken bumps and knows how things are supposed to go and might know what really could have hurt or did hurt or could have injured someone and what doesn't, and just looks that way. He usually differentiates, and his reaction was in the category if he thought something went just wrong enough to draw more attention to it. So anyway, I will move on from that. I just wanted to bring that up to you.
The word I'd use for that bump, if I performed it with someone, I said it was clean.
Okay.
And that's how it looked. Yep. It looked like a clean bump. Yep. That's what you want.
Yep. All right, Ian, anything else for us?
No, I know you got other callers, so we'll hop off.
Great. Thanks, Ian. Always good talking to you. Take care. Before I get to Darrell, because I'm sure he's going to want to talk about the topics that we have here. What do you make of what's going on with the Vision? It's odd. I'll throw a couple comments up, Derrick, and then I'll actually throw it here. 7-Eleven goes, the Vision is getting pretty blurry now. I see what he did there. Settler Vision 3 says, looking back, I think adding Logan Paul and Austin Theory to the Vision was a net negative. It took away from the seriousness of the group. It was best with the Bronze running the show with Heyman as a dominant duo. Let's see. Mr. Freshman joined us. He goes, they should have ended the Vision when Bronson got hurt. And Derek Mitchell says, Braun has been viewed as a future WrestleMania main eventer, but Oba changed Braun's trajectory, and it feels like he might be what they envisioned before Oba's ascension on the main roster. I do wonder when I say they're changing plans, how much has been shaken up just by Oba getting over so strong at this point. As far as Braun Breaker goes, Kavanti Smalls in the chat says, I've always thought Creative has presented Breaker as a one-trick pony. Grunt, leap, spear. He needs to break away from the Vision and get into some storyline. He and Trick or Sammy to bring character. And we brought 7-Eleven goes, I really wish Breaker would take a hiatus and return as a Steiner. His current gimmick is sort of tarnished a little bit, even though his cage match against Seth was good for what it was. And then Jay in Hartford, good to see you in the chat again, Jay. Heyman's focus on Brock instead of the Vision reminds me of when he managed Cesaro, but would talk about Brock. That was horrible. And JC Scooby says, yeah, the vision's become a non-factor now. They need to move on. So, Derrick, what's going on? His theory are they abandoning a theory or shifting him to a new storyline? Is Breakker going to take a hiatus? Should he? Logan Paul's injured, but is running from Grayson. Who did he run from last time?
Joe Hendry.
Joe Hendry. Yeah, I said Grayson Waller for some reason. Yeah, Joe Hendry. Grayson is MIA. So yeah, Derrick, your thoughts?
A lot of it, I don't blame creative. I mean, obviously they were dealt a bad hand with a whole bunch of injuries. I think they attempted to make the best of it with what they had. Obviously, they kind of changed the tone to more silly, especially going into WrestleMania with the ice show speed things. I thought that they would recover a serious tones after that, and that just didn't happen. Bronson Reed's injury was another setback. So I think it has gotten to the point where if they disbanded it, I wouldn't blame them. But I think for Braun Breaker, yeah, I agree with Derek Mitchell. I think they had Braun Breaker as, we're going to turn this guy face and he's going to be our next main event guy. But now I think there's a new opening for Braun Breaker that is just as needed at the top of the card, and that is your main event heel. And especially when you're running 2 shows, I think he would be a phenomenal, dominant main event heel. And then when he crosses paths with Oba or with up-and-coming baby faces, maybe Trick, I think he's that perfect size wrestling heel who is big enough to pose a threat, big and explosive enough to pose a threat to bigger guys like Oba, like Roman, but also he can keep up with the smaller guys like Carmelo Hayes, Ilya Dragunov, and all those other guys to have really solid matches. So I still have a lot of hope in Braun Breaker. I'm still a huge fan of Braun Breaker. It just does feel like he's off the tracks right now, and he doesn't know how to get back on the on-ramp and go in the right direction.
He's looked a little lost on. I don't even want to say plural promos because it might have just been one last week where it's like, oh, he does seem like Heyman's abandoned him, or the Heyman connection's been abandoned. Not Heyman personally, but like a character who's a little bit lost without playing off of Heyman and without being part of a strong faction, because theories hitting on, or I say hitting on, just chatting up Maxine. They're chatting up each other, and Logan's doing comedy, and he's just standing there trying to be the badass, and it's hard. It's like, So I don't know what to think. Where do you think they're going with Austin Theory? Because he lost clean, and now Maxine and him are having a spat, and I don't know what to make of it. I mean, I think Theory's been presented himself well. I think he's showing he belonged in that spot. I don't think people are going, oh, it's just a joke that he's part of it. I don't think he's dragged the group down. But is he going to be a victim of circumstances because of injuries and abandoning it? I mean, at least there's storyline support for Heyman is so focused on Lesnar that he abandoned his group, and that's a storyline that they worked in. But how did Theory come across when he's like, Paul, you're not returning my texts? And then he goes, oh boy, when Paul kind of stood up to him. I'm not sure what they're doing or what to make of it.
He came across a little bit pathetic in that moment.
Yeah.
I think he tried to redeem himself when they gave him some mic time to set up the match with Joe Hendry. I think to some extent he did, but then he lost the match. And I guess the fallback plan is him in a storyline with Maxine that I assume will eventually involve Chad Gable, where if Gable can get some more positive steam behind him, he's a good wrestling heel for Gable to beat. And then if you have an added story to that, I think it generates a little more added interest. But once again, that's lower card, which unfortunately for Austin Theory, I just don't see where is the elevation going to take place. And I don't see where the elevator for him is.
Yeah. And this just feels almost emasculating for anybody in the group. They're like, well, with so many injuries, Heyman's just not going to even give them attention now. But it all could be leading somewhere. At least they addressed it, because it was weird that they weren't talking about Heyman in their promos and the announcers weren't talking about Heyman during their matches. And now he shows up, and then Cole is mentioning, and then they turn it into an angle. So is the angle just tying loose ends, so to speak, and then they just don't talk about it again? Or they go, we the Vision has disbanded without Heyman's leadership, and they're all doing their own thing now, and that's it. They feel like, okay, check that box and we move on. Or does this lead to something? But Bronson Reed comes back, and then Logan gets healthy, and then they reunite after Brock is gone on hiatus. But They have to mend the fence now. They took a bit. Heyman was a jerk to Theory in a way that you either think Theory looked pathetic and he's emasculated and he's irrelevant, or Theory needs to respond to that in a way that maybe earns Heyman's respect. Like, hey, I pushed you away, and look, you took a stand, you impressed me. I mean, there's a lot of directions it could go. I just don't know. Yeah.
Well, they did set up a tag title rematch this week.
Yep.
I mean, so it's not like the division's completely dead. I think we'll find out more next week, when it sounds like it'll be Braun and Austin Theory in a rematch against the Street Profits. And if they want to do a clean break, that would be a good time to do it.
But that's the thing, is I think there's a good chance they lose clean next week, and then that's it. They get their rematch, it fills some TV time, and I don't know. But I mean, I'm not saying I have any certitude or that it's the only option that has some likelihood. But I don't rule it out. I just throw them out there. They lose, and then they go. Logan's injured. Wait till he can come back with a kind of a reset when he's healthy, and Theory just goes on to feud with Chad Gable over Maxine. I don't know.
That's what it sounds. That's what it looked like to me.
Yeah.
That was where I saw segues headed towards.
Now, to that I say, Lesnar's not going to be around a lot, and
what's Paul going to do?
That's exactly it. Like, when does he just reform? Does he just manage Bronson Reed when he's healthy, whenever that is, and Braun Breaker, and Logan does comedy stuff, and Austin Theory does mid-card stuff, or like, I don't know. Whatever. We'll wait and see. And
it might be best. It might be best for the state of the division to break the other pieces apart and just have Paul focus on Braun Breaker and be in the Braun Breaker business fully, like he's been for Brock Lesnar in the past.
Yeah. Sadler says, I don't think Braun is clever enough on the mic. The official Mr. Coleman says, perfect example. Why should we care if you don't care? Heyman leaving was a big eye-opener for how we're supposed to look at the group. We see the priorities.
Good point.
Sadler 3 says, I don't think Braun's clever enough on the mic to be a lead heel. I think his future is as a face. Interesting. Jay in Hartford says, they turned on Seth too soon and out of nowhere. Heyman's presence is not consistent. The group needs a hierarchy within its ranks. They're not the Shield. Derek Mitchell says, Theory trying to hold it all together, but not great. Heyman ghosted him, not returning his calls and not telling him he's even in the building. The official Mr. Coleman says, I didn't realize how much the Tribal Thief was the glue to that group. He was the real muscle. I mean,
Something to that.
Yeah. And Sutherland says, I wouldn't mind seeing Braun back together as a dominant tag team on their own. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, like you said, it could be Heyman just managing Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker, and that's it, and then maybe somebody else gets added, but maybe it's somebody that's not even on the radar at this moment. So, yeah. Mika Current in the chat goes, we love you, Wade. Thanks for all you do. Go VIP. Thank you. PWTorch, VIPinfo.com. Sign up, get all the benefits, be a customer, supporter, and I think you'll like all the perks. Nearly a 4-decade library. At commercial-free versions of all our free shows, and then VIP-exclusive podcasts, and an ad-free website. Okay, Derek, let's bring Darrell in. He's been on hold a long time here.
Let's do it.
Darrell, welcome to the show. His subtitle here is Week Raw. You thought it was a Week Raw. You said that at the top in the chat, too.
Yeah. And I start off with what y'all was just talking about, the vision. I hated what they did with Paul Heyman and how it kind of made it seem like they were trying to scapegoat Austin Theory in a way with how they was telling the story, how they had Paul Heyman do him. That's the type of stuff you used to see Vince do and have people do to characters, to belittle them, to make them even smaller, when that was a guy who you built as a project to see if you can revamp him and stuff like that. And it was obvious you didn't have Logan, who been coming to most of every show. You didn't have him come on the show tonight. Braun didn't show up on the show tonight. So you weren't going to let Paul do that to either one of those guys. Because, again, like you said, like both of you guys said, Brock ain't going to be here every week. He might not show up but one more time before SummerSlam. So,
and then maybe not for ever or months afterwards. Yeah.
And this is why I called it a week Raw, is because every story that they told tonight to me was weak to a point. It it had nothing to hold it up. It had no layers to hold it up. It was just like you threw something together and you was hoping something catch. It's like you were throwing darts at a board and you hoping something catch.
Mhm.
He's like, you did that to Austin Theory. Then you threw a dart at the board by having him come back and, like Derrick said, picking up and winning on the mic a little bit, but then you take it away from him because you threw another dart out there and have him lose to Joe Henry, who you had Joe Henry playing comedy, and not serious. And then you put the tag team champions, who I had said that time with you, Wade, why I hated they had that tag team match to build a feud between Seth and Braun, because now you put them out there with a guy who they following behind, who doing comedy, and who tearing down another guy. Weak. That's weak. Let's say a injury happened because a guy at the top, who you count on to sell some tickets for SummerSlam. What if he get hurt because he's known for getting hurt? The best what make you valuable is your availability, and he's rarely available most of the time. So you're doing different. Go ahead.
So you first Sadler Fishing 3 says, I agree this Raw was weak overall, but strong ending promo. You in the chat earlier, Darrell, said, and I'll throw this to Derrick, name 3 things from Seth's promo you remember from tonight. Is that fair? I think there were memorable moments in this promo.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember pretty much the gist of everything he said. But I mean, obviously there's a cheap sheet, the fact that we've talked about it, so it's fresh on my mind. But I thought his promo was, I thought it wasn't only catchphrases and fancy talk and punchlines. I think it had substance. And more, those are the promos I like. The Trick Williams style promo for me, to me, that's a little bit shallow. I know the crowd loves that stuff. And MJF, another example, a few punchlines, witty, call outs, that kind of stuff. I would much rather have someone talk about something where I think if you read a transcript, it actually has meaning. And that's what Seth's promo was to me tonight.
And I'd say for 3 moments, I think it had 3 sections to it. It talked about their history as partners in the Shield, and I've had your number since I hit you with a chair. You have a title that I never lost, and we're running out of time, and this is a match that needs to happen, and you need it more than I do, Roman. I think those are 3 bang, bang, bang. Darrell.
Yeah. Agreed.
I got you with it. I got you on that. Oh, and I go to that then, okay. But one thing about the Vision was kind of snake bitten from the start because they had a weak start with the pun, with how they started and with the leader that they had bringing them in, and how they in jail because of him and stuff like that. So they had something. They was always fighting from behind and stuff like that. Okay, now going into what you were saying, and in the chat we were talking about it and just different things about perennial. And you would call it perennial number 2. Seth is a perennial number 2. To me, Seth is like a Eli Manning. He's an Eli Manning, right? Eli beat Tom Brady, who some would consider the greatest quarterback in NFL history. But I'm guaranteeing Tom Brady would rather play Eli Manning every time in the Super Bowl because he felt like he probably could beat him every time, even the times that he lost. Those 2 championships, Giants fans remember, but don't. And a lot of people don't give Eli any credit for that, even though he's a champ.
Yeah. You
know what I'm saying? I wouldn't want to be called a perennial number 2. I want to be a 1B to a 1A, because that means you're somebody who can lead a team. We seeing that in the news right now, in sports with Jaylen Brown. He wants to be a number 1. That's why he's acting in the way that he's acting and turning off some people and stuff like that. And the reason why I'm bringing all this up is them 3 points that you pointed out, Wade, I agree. Those are 3 points that you can remember. But to me, that was from a guy who was bringing up the history, trying to garner sympathy from the fans. The other 2 was kind of trying to get I know people used to say, like Mick Foley used to do sometimes, get the cheap pops from the crowd to get them to say do something. those were the type of stuff that in those promos he was seeming to talk about for me, because that's why I say I wish people would watch more different sports so you can add to your overall viewing of things. Because when we see major athletes, we don't want them to talk about, this could be our last time ever because we got the young guys coming up on us. When people start hearing that, when they hear that from boxers, when they hear that from USC guys, they see you as, oh, then you need to be put out the pasture. You no longer have the fire behind you to try to win the title. If you're not talking about winning, if you're not talking about I got it, or you don't have the delusional like Cowboys fans, we're gonna win the Super Bowl every year. If you don't have that, you lose the focus of most sports fans.
So, Derrick, I could sense you were disagreeing with something Darrell said a minute ago.
Yeah, a few things. First of all, I think Seth, like as we talked about, I think he had that fine line where he talked about not that we're too old, but our time is now, and we can feel the other guys kind of on our heels. So I thought he drew that line pretty well for what it was. And also I don't think he resorted to allowing the fans like saying things to get cheap responses. I think everything he said actually had meaning, wasn't added for a cheap pop. I think he did mention Atlantic City once, but it was part of his promo. It was not a way to, it didn't feel like it was needy.
He didn't and he didn't say, "Oh, well, you were saying suffer and succotash. I was having 5-star matches." Like,
exactly.
Thank God. You know what I mean? Like, but I like that. I would be critical of. Don't
canon.
Well, yeah. One might argue it would be in canon to say the suffer and succotash thing, but it's not, in the sense that that's not who Roman is now. Roman should veto any references to that. It doesn't serve any purpose, nor does talking about your match quality. By the way, I didn't like Brock saying I couldn't cut a promo, so I appalled to do it for me. I think it's 60-40 meta, non-meta, in the sense that, yes, I know I need to promote my fights to make more money, and I want someone who can pitch it for me. So there's a little bit of grace there. But even that notion of you're good at promos, Oba, but I'm not, it's like, I would have scratched that. It feels like pandering to an insider audience. And to me, that feels, 20 years out of date. And even then I was against it. So to me, this promo was refreshing by Seth because it didn't go there at all. No. Like, while you're having winning. These... Because while you're having these boring matches where you do 5 moves, I'm out there setting the standard that nobody even outside of WWE or outside of this country can compete with. That'd be a veiled shot at AEW and New Japan, and it would get a buzz online. People are like, "Oh, I can't believe he said that," and all the partisans would fight with each other. He didn't go there, Darrell. Like that's low hanging fruit. He talked about, like Derrick just leaned in and said, "Keep it canon, make it." About if this were real, what would they really be talking about? That's what I think those who liked the promo liked about it. Darrell, go ahead.
I would agree if you were talking about him cutting a meta promo for inside fans and fans like you, me, Derrick, who can catch on to stuff like that. But what I'm talking about in cutting the fans, I would let you look at the promos that last time we said he was serious was when him and Montez Ford had that match and the way that they talked to each other. Mm-hmm. The promo that he cut tonight was totally different than what they was talking about. That drew fans in and brought fans into the match that they had later on that night and brought fans in. Tonight, the promos that he cut, he was trying to bring the casual fans in to yearn some type of emotion. That's why most of the stuff that he said, he cut off after it because he was waiting for some type of noise, some type of applause, like an applause track or anything to come up. When he brought up about the Shield, we was the Shield. When he brought up, and he was saying the brother line, and he was saying, how did he say it about the comment about, I got something that can't nobody else give you. And he kept bringing it up, and he brought it up a couple of times because it was like he was trying to pull along something, and he wanted it. It was like you was filling out trying to get somebody to say, "Oh, what? What?" and trying to engage them into it. I know he was talking to Roman, but it was more like he was trying to talk to the fans to get them to be invested in what they were saying and bring more noise. That's what type of promos I was talking about.
I'll ask Derrick this first, and then I want to get your thoughts too, Darrell. Did this promo work with a live audience? Was it, they're on the edge of their seat listening, now I'm invested in the match? Or were they, like, because Darrell's bringing up, like, was Seth going for pops? Once the song ended, I didn't think the crowd was, like, super emotive in how they were reacting to it. I don't know I think that's baked into this kind of match. Frankly, it's in my written report. I said, Seth sold me on this match, made me care more about it. But I think a match where fans have a rooting interest in someone winning and a rooting interest in someone losing, and it's unified, and you're part of the higher end communal experience of rooting for somebody to win and wanting to see somebody lose. I think that's going to move more tickets than hard selling the history and the magnitude of this match. But again, it's number two, but it's not a distant number two. Like, I'm not arguing that. I mean, this match can sell with all the things that other than Darrell and a couple others are saying that we liked about it. But I get worried when I watch this, and I'm like, where was the crowd going, ooh, or yeah? Like, I don't sense people taking sides. I'm a Seth guy, I'm a Roman guy. I think they're kind of watching, interested, maybe more invested by the end than they were at the beginning, but also emotionally detached and more just sort of kind of curious to see what happens, more than an adrenaline rush of I can't wait for one of them to win who I'm actually siding with. I don't think that promo steered us, and I don't think we had that kind of emotional reaction while it was happening. That's my take. Derrick, what's yours?
This is my interpretation, but it's mine. That's obviously going to be laced in my bias and how I perceive things. But after Seth got the big pop when he came out, they grabbed the mic. They started singing Seth's song when they stood eye to eye, kind of to acknowledge Seth that we like you, or we at least like your song. And then it changed to the OTC chant, and Roman kind of put his eyes
Get
up.
your act together, Atlantic City. That was a bad OTC chant.
Yeah, and then they recognized that. But I felt that the crowd quieted themselves down because they wanted to hear them talk and listen to what they were going to say.
Yeah.
And I think that shows you that they wanted to hear the challenge and they wanted to hear the response. And also, I felt this while they were giving their words. You didn't hear catcalling. You didn't hear a whole bunch of noise because people were leaning in and listening. They wanted to hear what these guys have to say. I think a lot of times we interpret noise as the sign that they're invested. No, if someone's talking, the sign that you're invested is you're kind of quiet.
Yep.
And then in wrestling,
which is why I think Cody doesn't like. It's why I think Cody looks to me, and I've just a little irked when fans are chanting, singing Cody Rhodes. He's like, I don't want to act unappreciative, but please stop it. You're interrupting the cadence and the flow of what I'm saying. And I do think he would agree with you, Derrick. Like, respect me. I'm talking. Like, I'm saying stuff I've thought about. I think it's important. Don't sing in the middle of it.
And also, I heard when Seth was giving his monologue, every time he had a dramatic pause, there was different kinds of audience feedback. Some were more ooh, some were more cheer, some were more waiting for Roman to respond. And that's as an audience member who's watching on television, what I'm doing for each of these verbal salvos is I'm leaning a little closer. I'm leaning a little closer. And then I'm recognizing, okay, that's a point. And if it was a good point and I'm there live, I ooh at that, or I cheer at that, or I awe at that. And then I want to hear the response. So I think like when you're having this in-ring dialogue, which is kind of silly, but it's definitely part of the pro wrestling narrative, that's an effective cadence of reaction that shows people are invested, but they're engaged in listening to what is being said, not just waiting for their time to chant or react.
Darrell.
And see, that's why I like listening and learning from somebody like you, Derrick, and you, Wade, because with you, Wade, your history, your knowledge of seeing different, you back in the days, you watched the AWA, WWE, you even knew about Mid-South and stuff like that. Derrick, you being somebody who's been in the business, train others, and you teach others how to pick up these type of cues. Me coming from a fan who's been watching for over 30 plus years, my instance is this. I understand what you're saying. I like that when fans don't be, I'm against the chants. I don't like the chants. I come on here all the time and say that. I don't like the chants. I'm with the New Japan fans when they sit there and they just give you the claps. They give you the small applause. They did that a lot when they was having those big matches with the Omega, Dem and all of that. That's how they was into it. But one thing that I did tonight is I listened, but I wanted to pay attention to the fans that was in the front row and the fans that was a little bit past the front row. Because you know what? The difference between, I was always told when you're telling a story and you're a storyteller, yeah, you want to draw the fans in, you want them to lean in and listen. But once you're finished telling the story, you want that immediate applause. You want that immediate reaction or something. And after they spoke tonight and Roman sat there and raised the belt, you heard nothing. They didn't give you the round of applause. They didn't give you no action. They didn't give you nothing. They didn't, because I've been saying this to Wade for weeks. Even when Roman talked, and I ain't even gonna talk about Seth right now. Even when Roman talked, they don't pay attention to what he said. That's why I felt like it was bad when they stopped and they wanted to begin to talk. The fans want to entertain themselves with the OTC chant that was horrible and singing the Seth song.
Yep.
You don't even 5 years ago, or let's say 2.5 years into the bloodline, people was listening to Roman. They could tell you what he said. They could go about, especially if you even want to go back to the COVID era, people would come in and listen to them TVs. They was listening to the stories. That's why you paid attention and you picked up in the background of the faces that Jey Uso was making that made him into a star.
I will say, Darrell, I wish Roman had more facial expressions in reaction to things than I just drank sour milk. Like that's kind of his go-to reaction to a lot of things. And I'd like to see more nuance here. We pick on Tiffany Stratton's acting because she over-emotes. But Roman gets points for the era you just talked about, but I kind of want to see him not just look like he just drank sour milk when someone's done talking and he wants to act dismissive of them. And I thought there was something else to be had there with Roman's reaction to what Seth said than, I don't know, the sour milk face. And again, we talk about him, a man of, John Cena was criticized for having a small moveset. Roman has a small facial reaction set in terms of reactions. Derrick.
He did do one that I thought that showed an elevated annoyance today, and that was, and I don't know if he uses it a lot, but I definitely noticed it tonight, and it's the deep breath chest drop, where when Seth started talking, it was like that, which just shows like a different level of annoyance.
Yeah,
and it was effective enough where it didn't seem like it was a put on, but it definitely sold his demeanor, which to me showed like a different level of he's annoyed with everybody. I mean, that's what it's always been. This is a different level. This is a different level of annoyance.
I think you picked it up because that's what I see Cody do every time people start chanting Cody Rhodes in the middle of his promo. It's just like, oh God, okay, I got to pretend like I'm okay with this. The communal chant thing, just it's like losing weight. It's not going to happen in a week. You got to commit to a new diet and calorie deficit, get some exercise, eat whole food, don't eat processed food, eat more protein than simple carbs. It's a whole array of things, and you can make it happen. That's how I feel about WWE and the communal chats. Like, it's a whole list of things. There's not just magic pill to take, but steering fans away from that so they do lean in and listen and react to what's being said. And that, a lot of things can make that happen. But if I'm WWE, I make that an 18-month goal to steer people. I mean, not to do away with them, but understand there's a time and place, and stop showing up at buildings just so you can do it. But you have to tell good stories and get people invested in outcomes, and not just, I'm here to have my voice heard on national TV. Derrick, you look like you're itching to say something.
Yeah, so Daryl, I have a question for you, because I think this might guide the different way that we perceive that ending promo. If this promo would have never happened tonight, and yesterday, on Sunday, I told you that Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns was going to be one of the main events for SummerSlam, is that a thumb up or a thumb down for you? You're muted, bud.
Darrell, stop.
My bad, I hit a Wade. I hit away. My bad. I would have said thumbs down. You just killed your card.
So I think for me, it would be more like a thumb that's like 75% up. So when the promo started, I'm going to be more receptive to be won over by it because I kind of want to see it. While for you, they're kind of starting in the negative and they got to do a lot of swimming against the tide to get to the thumbs up point. And I think that might be the different way we perceived it as fans because we have a different interest level in the match on paper before the promo.
And they have 29 matches against each other. 19 Roman, 9 Seth, 1 draw. You know what I'm saying? So, and Wade, what you saying with Roman, his facial expressions was classic in the middle of the bloodline feud. And I like what Derrick said. When he hit that, I thought he was going to play along to it and add some more into it because he could have helped bolster Seth Rollins' promo more if he gave a little bit more. I think right now, Roman is like Conor McGregor when Conor McGregor after the Floyd Mayweather fight, he got all the money and he was no longer hungry anymore. Right now, Roman isn't hungry anymore. Back when the bloodline started and he came back hungry. You came back off of getting the dog food sprayed on you and stuff like that. He's no longer hungry. This will bring me into my next topic. I know we rarely talk about this on here, but I even wrote in the chat. I think you put it up, Wade. Okay, WrestleMania didn't. The tickets didn't do well. I'm talking about the business side because you have to.
I mean, they did well. They just didn't sell out at the price. I mean, it was one of the most successful weekends in pro wrestling history for ticket sales.
Yeah.
But it was aggressively priced, and the stadium shows in the same market are catching up to them. Yeah.
And they caught and you know it bothered them though. Reason why I brought it up because it bothered them because they spent a month and a half after talking about it and bringing it up in any little place. Mark Shapiro was going into conferences where they weren't even talking about stuff like that. He was bringing up those ticket sales and we did like it and trying to defend it and deflect it because they heard the ramblings of people talking about y'all internally didn't like it, but you did. And right now in your stadium, Wade, y'all can hold 73,000 people. Right now they had 23 both nights. I know WWE fans, the super hardcore, like to give AEW pushback and say how they ain't quite selling where they want to be. But right now, what would be a good number in your book for them to make that stadium look pretty good?
Pretty good is about 45, and I mean, I think they're at around 24 as of like a little over a week ago. They've sold some more. You got to get past this Night of Champions and this Raw for them to start announcing matches before I'm going to make a big call. But to get a flight and make a plan, when you have, summer vacation, if this is going to be a big international show that people are going to travel to, I mean, I think we'd see more tickets being moved. But I mean, they've got a correct court. This isn't an issue like Tim Cook saying, we're going to have to raise the price of our Apple products because the components are more expensive because there's a shortage and a bunch of parts we need are going to build data centers for AI. Well, that's a real problem that forces you to raise your price. If the price of beef goes up, restaurants charge more for their burgers. WWE tickets are not related to that at all. They are simply charging what they think they can get away with, and all these executives are getting rich and wrestlers are making good money. Well, now they got to get a little less rich and make a little less money if they want full buildings because they need to lower the prices.
Yeah.
And that's not it's not the only thing. They need to do other things too. But honestly, it clearly some people look at that price and they go, "This product isn't worth it." If McDonald's charged $15 for a meal, a drink, fries, and a sandwich instead of 10 or whatever they charge now, people would stop going. I mean, that's how people are, and it's kind of simple economics. They either need to improve the product so people pay the price or lower the price. They got a little too greedy. Derrick.
I just see it as and it's somewhat disappointing to me because I understand why they raised prices when the supply was or when the demand was so high and they were riding high. But the key to being good when it comes to economics, especially if you're a publicly traded company, is you have to respond to that supply and demand curve. And there's always going to be a lag. But now we're seeing a 6-month lag and adjustment, which just shows a level of stubbornness, which I think is not very admirable for company leadership that you think would be very intelligent. Well, a 6-month lag is not intelligent.
And it comes, I mean, once you seem like you're fleecing your loyal fan base, you lose goodwill. And when you lose goodwill, people start thinking more about the price. When you have goodwill, because you don't cross the line into seeming like you're being greedy or fleecing fans, that goodwill allows you to charge more than fans would otherwise pay. But when you lose that goodwill and you create a perception of they're all about the money, they're a corporation that happens to be promoting wrestling and they just want our wallets. When it flips to that, now people won't pay what they're willing to pay. They want, or what they otherwise would be willing to pay. They start scrutinizing whether they want to support the brand. I haven't brought up Target in a month, but that happened with Target. Like people like, I'll pay a little more to go to Target instead of Walmart. And a bunch of people who were doing that for decades go, not anymore. I'm going to Walmart. They redid their store. The products are just as good. I'll deal with it. Like they're just a tipping point for a lot of businesses. And there's fast casual restaurants who are going out of business, shutting down because the experience got worse when you could tell they were cheaping out on the ingredients. I'm not saying WWE for sure is at a tipping point, but Derrick, what you're saying is, I'm with you. Take a hint and take action.
Yeah.
Don't drag it out and go, well, that was an aberration because it was Vegas 2 years in a row. We screwed up and blah, blah, blah. Maybe you just don't have a product people want to pay that kind of money for, and you need a reality check.
I think, too, like it's a byproduct of all of this built up frustration with the secondary ticket market. I mean, StubHub and that. I think that has a lot to do with all sports leagues too, and concert venues. They got really sick of getting work of lowering their prices or keeping them at a respectable level to the supply and demand curve, and then being completely ripped off and undercut by these secondary ticket dealers. And they're like, wait a minute, these people don't do anything, and yet they are cashing in on the popularity of our products.
Yep, I get that.
I understand that, but that's not the fans' fault.
And I brought that up, but the secondary market is not supporting. They've priced beyond even that now. So anyway, Darrell, go ahead. I want to wrap up somewhat soon here, but go ahead with a follow up here.
Oh yeah, just to go ahead and end it. The reason why I brought it up is because Cody booking, even in the good times, they were playing with his booking because they feel like if they played with his booking, they could get a little bit more tickets to be sold and stuff like that. My question would be, if they were really confident in whatever match they would put on, they'll announce the nights weeks in advance so you can at least sell one ticket better and stuff if they were very confident in what they were choosing. I don't think they would do that. I think they're going to play all the way into the week of and then tell you which night, which is going to probably hurt it as well because of, like you said, Wade, the high ticket prices. And then if they don't meet a quota, what they think they should do, we saw them playing with Cody. What you think they would do in the overall booking when they feel like, oh, we're losing a little bit, we're bringing down. So that was my whole thing of bringing up the tickets. And my last thing to you guys would be, they also contradicted themselves. You heard them coming out, Nick Khan, Mark Shapiro, Triple H, all coming out talking about we want to focus on the young generation, the young talent. And I always heard Wade say, hey, before the older people get out, you want to let them put over some of the younger guys when they're hot and they're trying and they need that win. You hurt Braun by letting him lose, and now you're dismantling his group. Now he got to bounce back and try to build something up when you could have continued his growth. Right now, you got to find 5 heels, maybe, that you can put for Oba when you have been having horrible, where it's horrible in all wrestling companies when it comes building credible heels. You don't have that. So you're contradicting your whole self by going with a match that's 2 older guys. And I don't think that people really want to see. This ain't Steph and LeBron maybe joining teams and going to blow up the TV market. And every time they come on TV together, you're going to see super ratings, and every stadium is going to sell out, and every team is going to get something out of it. Mm-hmm. So, how do y'all feel about that?
I'll go full circle. I'm glad that they acknowledged it and didn't run from it. So this might be our last chance because the new generation nipping at our heels. So it's baked in. So I'm okay with it, and I think Seth delivered in the promo tonight. But I'm okay with it in the spirit of, I hope this match is happening because they feel so positive about Oba. They want to do it right. They feel so positive about Jacob Fatu. They want it to be ripe before whatever they do with him and Roman. And that they are playing, kind of long ball, medium ball, and that Seth Roman is sort of the break glass in case of emergency. We know we can draw with it when we need it, but if that prevents us from turning somebody you don't want to or rushing a match that we think is what you're saying, passing the torch to the next generation, I hope that's the reason this match is happening, and I kind of think it is. I don't think this is Seth and Roman want a big payday in their spot. Derrick.
Yeah, and I see like he mentioned that this is maybe our last chance to do this. And it's also the last chance to do it on a big stage where it still means a lot to a lot of the fans who have watched. And remember the Shield. If you do this in 5 years, the Shield was what, 2014? I think there's a lot of fans who wouldn't even remember it. It would be is what I call fake nostalgia, where you don't actually remember liking it. You remember other people liking it. And so now all of a sudden you accept it, but that's a different level. So as they kind of build the match, the last chance for us to do this at a high level on a big stage is now. I think that's true. And that's why I think if you're not going to do Oba for the championship, which would be my option number one that I would go with, this would be a good option number two.
Yep. All right, Terrell, thanks.
Yes, sir.
You want a closing word? I couldn't tell if you were.
Oh, closing word would be we're thinking about that as long as they allowed to do that. What happened when you have George Steinbrenner come down, raising fire and brimstone, and take that ability to build that long-term thing from you? Now they want the fast, quick thing because they feel like they got to recoup what they lost. Yeah. That's it for me.
All right. Thanks, Terrell. That was a good conversation. Thanks.
All right.
Some chat comments here about Seth. Jay and Hartford says Seth's promo was tremendous. The promo made me want to see a match I thought I didn't care for. He explained what makes the match important. Then the official Coleman, who called earlier, says Seth sold the fight, and that's what you need for a championship fight. Mr. Freshman says Seth was good tonight, and says since he returned from injury, this has been the best version of Seth. As far as Eli Manning, which Darrell brought up, Sadler of Rodrigo, Seth is way better than Eli. Eli told the whole legacy in 3 to 4 games. Rollins is a legit top 5 guy for WWE over a decade.
I agree.
And if Coleman says Seth sold a fight without being meta, WWE loves to use that cheat sheet for quick fight hype. Yes, they did not do that. Derek Mitchell says, I don't think Seth was trying to garnish sympathy, but rather remind Roman of their shared history. I've said 1,000 times, everyone thinks they are the hero in their own story.
Good
and
comment.
Jane Hartford just said, this was a top Seth promo. Let's see if anybody added anything since I was reading there. Jane Hartford says, I thought Seth's new generation comment helped put over the newer talent. I can't believe how much this promo delivered. They should main event Sunday night. Interesting. Will they main event Sunday night?
I think there's a chance. And in defense of, Darrell brought it up that they haven't released all the matches and they don't really tell you what day which match is going to go on. I think they do deserve some creative license for that because you don't know which matches are going to catch fire and be seen from the fan base is more important. And they do try to balance it out. Like a good example, I think when they put Oba and Brock for WrestleMania on paper, I don't think they thought that would be the most anticipated match of WrestleMania going into it until it all of a sudden became that. And then I do think that requires some adjustment to ensure that the fans who go on one night or the other, they get a good experience, but also, and I think they kind of fell with that in WrestleMania this year, where night 2 was so much stronger than night 1, but it wasn't from a lack of trying. I thought they balanced it out, and obviously they didn't.
Some other comments from Jay and Hartford. I didn't want to see Seth Roman, and they won me over tonight. Simple. I don't like that they won't give the babyface Roman clear heels to feud with, but tonight's promo made the match choice work. And he says Derrick is nailing the description of the segment. The promo and the crowd response was perfect. He adds, the final segment was great. The ending of the Raw is one of the best I've seen. Not every show ending needs a crowd screaming at the top of their lungs.
Amen.
And I don't want to see Seth Roman, and they won me over 10. Okay, I did read that one from Jay.
So one comment, Wade, because you mentioned it in passing about Oba's performance on the night.
Yeah.
I wasn't a big fan of his opening promo for a few reasons. First of all, I hated his attire. he was wearing his own shirt, and he kind of threw away. Like, I loved when he's been coming out and more of a distinct, I don't know if I would say it's African tribal, but it's very like a distinct fashion to himself that if I wore it would look completely ridiculous. But when he wears it, it looks distinct and authentic. And I love that look. And then tonight he came out like everybody else.
Yeah.
So I didn't care for that. And I also didn't care for the line that you mentioned where he said that response was fitting for a ruler, but now I'm a king. Because in the past, I think he's really like drawn that line where he's accepting the fan response and embracing it, but he doesn't have to call for it and ask for it.
Yeah.
And tonight he just went completely against that and then asked for it.
Yep. Which
asking someone to cheer for you in any avenue of life seems forced.
Ruler is a catchphrase, king is a tournament win.
Yeah.
And now you're looking like you're kind of marking out for a silly gimmick like Xavier or King Booker. And instead, I think you like wearing your own t-shirt. Like you want Oba to be above it. Like cheer me if you want, but I'm here to conquer.
Yeah.
I'm not here to worry about my crowd response or what kind of like that's, I don't like wrestlers talking about cutting good promo. I don't like anyone in canon talking about whether they cut good promos or not. Like this is about winning championships and fights. It's not a point system. And I think people just get lost in that. So yeah, I thought I've been so impressed with Oba. He still has a presence, but there were some missteps tonight.
Yeah. In defense of Braun though, Brock Lesnar with the promo line.
Yeah.
I thought the whole purpose for Brock's promo was to disarm Oba and make him feel like Brock was more jovial and like celebratory. So then when he kicked him in the balls, it just felt like so much more of a betrayal. Because it's one thing if I look at you eye to eye, Wade, and I'm challenging you to a fight, and then I punch you. Well, I kind of gave you a warning that I was going to punch you, so you should be ready for it. If I'm telling jokes with you and patting you on the back, and then all of a sudden I hit you in the nuts, you would feel like, what a jerk move. And that's what Brock did tonight. That was a jerk move.
I agree with everything you said. I think you can accomplish that without using the jargon of I can't cut a promo, you can.
True.
Cut a promo doesn't belong on TV. Like it just that's promos are just what happens, but it's not. It shouldn't. Yeah, it's not part of winning.
Yeah.
So I would have if Brock could say I don't know how I feel about him going. I don't even watch the show. I mean, I guess it's to get heel heat because fans want fans want to feel that wrestlers like pro wrestling, and it's like when you hear, a tennis player go. I don't know. Jimmy Connors said, I never watched a tennis match in my life, and John McEnroe's on color commentary for every big tennis match over 40 years, and it's like, oh, I like John McEnroe better now. I didn't like him when he was playing the heel, but I like tennis, and John McEnroe loves tennis, and Jimmy Connors doesn't. So I'm now changing how I felt in the 80s about them, or the 70s. I don't even know. There's my dated sports reference. And I think when Brock is saying that, okay, I'm coming to Minneapolis. Do I want to get cheered? Do I want to get booed? Are they going to try to steer fans? I don't know. But it was an interesting choice, and I'm kind of processing how I feel about it. It fits his character to go, I just fly in, do my thing, get out. You guys know that. Is it canon that we know that, though? I don't remember Brock. He acted like everybody knows it, but I don't know if in canon he has talked about that before. And then and then I felt like a little bit of a contradiction. I think choose one or the other. When he goes, you're good at cutting promos, I'm not. Well, how would you know that? So how I'd redo it is just have Brock go, I don't normally watch. I got better things to do than to watch pro wrestling. I just come in and beat people up and they cut me a check. And I think he can do that as a heel. And Paul's going to be like, yes, yes, that's what we do. We kick ass and cash checks. That should be his t-shirt. But I was listening to you before I came out here. You grabbed my attention. A lot of people bore me. You don't bore me. I'm kind of impressed with the way you talk. I don't think, I got Paul talking for me. I don't even know, when I talk, sometimes I feel like, I don't know, there'd be a way. In other words, what I'm trying to say here is there's a way to say something without the jargon, without the industry terminology that I feel like is pandering to insider fans at the expense of a more foundationally solid mainstream delivery of a message.
I think that's a fair point. And it's been used at excess now to the point where it really doesn't generate any additional attention that's worth it at all.
When Brian Pillman said Booker Man on WWTV, to Kevin Sullivan, who was the booker but a villain on TV. All right, Mike, that was like one of the top stories of the year.
And no one knew what it meant.
Well, but yeah, exactly. It was a top story of the year in the newsletters. Like, you can go read about it in the Pro Wrestling Torch newsletter. Go VIP, read the back issues. You can read about how we reacted to things contemporaneously in real time, not revise history, and people who think they know from WWE documentaries or books what really happened. The Torch back issues tell you how we were feeling, us hardcore fans in the pre-internet and early internet eras. And insider language was what number two companies did, or wrestlers who were sources or reading the newsletters and grew up with that. They wanted to create a buzz. It's one of my reason I don't like wrestlers using playing to social media reactions. Just like, you're bigger than that. But getting back to my original point, that was novel. And to your point, Derek, it's not anymore. Everyone does it. It's a hack. It's hack.
Yeah.
Super chat from Derek. He goes, I'm a huge Obafemi fan and predicted he'd win King of the Ring, but he needs to end this feud with Brock, and he'll use his title shot at some point before the end of the year. I hope with the Money in the Bank winner in a 2027 Royal Rumble. So I'm not sure. I'm sorry, Derek. I don't know if you want him to win Money in the Bank and the Rumble and also cash his title shot before the end of the year. So if he wins Money in the Bank, he already has a title shot. So that feels redundant to me. Yeah. I'm not sure why he would. I don't even know if he I don't think he's the right person to be in a Money in the Bank match.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I mean, that's for a different type of heel or a different type of baby face. He's not that type.
It's somebody who's on the verge of being believable in a world title match.
On the
upswing. And there's exceptions, but it isn't somebody who already won King of the Ring. Yeah. Derek had another super chat via cage match. Roman is 4-6 versus Seth 1-on-1. Reigns beat Rollins clean twice. September 15, 2014, May 29th, 2017. It's going back a long time. Back when Ian first started calling the show. Seth has beaten Roman twice clean. Once for the WWE title in 16, and then 2 DQs and 1 countout. Okay. So 2 clean wins. So yeah, I'm curious how they go forward with Seth framing it as you need this win, Roman. And I think they should tidy that up a little bit.
Yeah, clarify it.
Yeah. All right. Anything else from the show, Derek, you want to bring up? We didn't cover. Well, I actually do want to know, what do you think's going on? What do you think of the story with LA Knight, the Usos, and Solo?
Before tonight, I liked where it was going. Tonight, I thought LA Knight acted out of character and did things that were past the line of being suspicious and more just like he attacked Jay for no reason. And unless he's going to take a strong heel turn, not only did it seem like it was unnecessary, but as a babyface, it seemed dumb too.
Mm-hmm.
So I did not like the ending of that match at all, because I don't know how a fan could not feel conflicted watching what was going on at the end of that match. So I did not care for that at all.
So I will say, in defense of consistency to LA Knight's character, that Knight jumped to the top rope and superplexed Jimmy, and then Jay stood up. And Knight had warned him, if you're going to be at ringside, there's been too much shenanigans, stay seated. Jay stood, and then Knight landed the wrecking ball kick, and then that's when Jay accused Knight of pulling Jimmy's hair, and he started tattling on him and the ref, which I thought was not a babyface move. Hey, ref, he's pulling his hair. And then that's when Knight threatened to throw Jimmy at Jay, and then that's when Jay kicked Jay as he turned around. I feel like there's enough there with Jay meddling through tattling, making a big deal out of something that's not a big deal, and then also standing up and distracting him. I think there's enough there. It didn't feel inconsistent to me.
I think it, like you've mentioned for weeks now, it feels like you're making people take sides, and unless you're going to go hard with one way or the other, I don't think there's a need to, right?
There's not a need to what?
There's a need to get your fans to choose, are you team Jimmy and Jay or team LA?
Well, I mean, in the end, don't we? I mean, I just don't think you want fans going, I don't know how I feel, so I'm going to say nothing. I think this is ambiguities leading to ambivalence here.
Yeah.
That's my concern.
I hope it doesn't lead to apathy, because the worst thing in wrestling to me is not frustration or excitement or enthusiasm or dejection. It is apathy, because that's when people stop watching and stop caring.
Yeah. So I'll judge it when they're done with the story arc, but I do not see what they're. I don't get. I mean, the announcers are saying LA Knight's paranoid, and it's like I don't. As I said earlier, I don't think he is. I think he's reacting kind of naturally. He's calling out Roman Reigns for being a prick and untrustworthy, and on a power trip. And it's like, yeah, it's like a Drew promo or a where you're like, yeah, he's kind of speaking the truth, but he's doing it as a babyface against somebody who comes across. To me, Roman Reigns is, he's very popular, but everything he does and every way he acts is bordering or blatantly heelish. And
I was surprised how much I was siding and feeling sympathetic for Solo during his promo on Friday. Yep. I was like, right when he and the emotion he showed, like I think that was one of Solo's best performances on the mic. Yep. It felt like someone who is really fed up and has to finally say, and he's not only admitting it to LA Knight, but he's admitting it to himself. I hate my family, and it did feel like that outburst of emotion that comes from a real hidden but guttural place. And I thought he did a great job conveying that.
Yep. Fan Blast 2, something we were talking about a moment ago, says, I think the insider stuff is baked in at this point. I think there are a couple of generations now that think that's just part of it, like interference during cage matches. Fan Blast, that's the thing. I mean, bad decisions that have been done over and over again should not. Yeah, precedent does not mean you should keep doing them. Like, I mean, it's almost, circular logic or begging the question. The insider stuff is baked in because people like me and people who nod along and don't play contrarian to my, I think a germane and rather easy to agree with point is tell a story on your wrestling shows from opening to closing credits that stays in canon and feels like it's a real sport. Like that it's you cover it like a sport, not like a scripted TV show, and don't play to some subset of the audience for reasons that I don't think actually translate to better business. I think it takes people out of the immersion.
I'm with you, and I think the beautiful thing of good habits and bad habits is bad habits you always have the ability to change. It's not easy, but that's why they're habits, because it took a long time for them to become that way, and sometimes it takes a long time to break them. But if it's worth it, and I think in this case, a lot of the insider stuff and going to that because it seems easier. Well, it's easier because it's not as effective. Yeah, which is why people do it.
Yeah, and a lot of the bad habits are honestly people who work in the business who are just trying to get through the day and are just taking the path of least resistance because of egos or it's a quick shortcut. They don't want to think of a new way to do it. There's all this TV time to fill. I saw it. Fans are used to seeing it for 5, 10, 15 years. Let's just do it and get through the night. And that is a reason for them to do it, but we don't need to agree to it. Like we shouldn't be just submit to cold French fries. Like just have a system where the fries are hot. You don't have to submit to interference in cage matches. Just have the cage match have some integrity to it. And it's like I said with losing weight. It takes a bunch of stuff and it takes time. Do a bunch of stuff and take time. When people go, well, people don't care about that anymore. People don't care about whether there's interference in a match or like, Claudio hitting someone with a belt from behind, hitting Brody King with a belt last week on Dynamite, and nobody cares. That's not a reason to keep doing it. That's a reason to change fundamentally how you present the product so that eventually relatively soon, people start caring about that stuff again, because when it was originally done, it was done because fans cared. And now they do it so often and they don't frame it as meaning anything. It's just part of business that people stop paying attention to that. And then they get emotionally disconnected. And then you know what they do? They cheer for high spots and they show up to chant and sing. And it's much harder to draw money that way. And it's not a big fan experience when people are doing that. And it takes structural changes to how you present the product.
And I think the difference is it's hard to quantify at the moment because it's a feeling you get when you're really invested in a wrestling match.
Yep. And
how do you put on paper, this is how I feel? But I'll tell you, when Sami Zayn, during the final stages of that triple threat match in the Night of Champions with that crowd behind Sami Zayn, man, I really wanted him to win. I really wanted him to win.
And when I watched Vegas and Carolina, like in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and I watched the games, and I was like, this is good hockey. I'm interested in the line changes, the goalie switch, the rivalries, the personalities. It's like, God, I kind of like, as I learn more, I kind of like the Vegas players quite a bit, but I also kind of like Carolina. But it's an interesting game. But when I get off the couch and I sit on the ottoman and I'm this far from the TV, it's when my Minnesota Wild are playing and it's a 1-goal game.
They're my guy. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
way more intense. And WWE is just like, let's just have everyone sitting back on their couch and just going, interesting. This is going to be something people talk about years from now. Like, it's like, it's weird, but it's sort of intellectualizing something that actually should be emotional. And instead, it's like, this is a big match for these reasons, as opposed to, I want to see this guy win and I want to see that guy lose. And I just want them to get back to that. But part of that is all the little stuff that I talk about. You know, why is the camera pointed at someone on their phone? Like, you've got to present the show so you can buy in and immerse yourself in something that feels real. The official, Mr. Coleman, says certain words wrestlers should never say in the mic. Promo is one of them. It should never be said on TV.
Never say promo while you're saying your promo.
Yes, exactly. Yep. By the way, Chris from New York, Chris from New Jersey. I'm so sorry, Chris. I bet that was a horrible misstatement there. Chris from New Jersey, 92, says, I just got home from the show. I only stayed up until the opening promo on SmackDown. Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City was electric all night, and I hope it translated on TV. Chris, it would be great if we could have had you on the show, but do me a favor, WadeKellerPostShow@gmail.com. If you're watching that, send some observations. I'll publish it on the website. Anything that happened on SmackDown that you saw, but especially you're talking about the crowd being electric. I'd love to have more details on how they reacted to different things. Brock and Oba and Seth and Roman, all that stuff. If you find the link on PWTorch in the next very few minutes and want to call the show, we'll put you on for a quick conversation too. The link to be a caller is in my report at PWTorch on tonight's show. But that's interesting, Derrick. Did it come across like the crowd was electric all night?
Not all night. I thought I was a little bit disappointed in, like, last Monday, I believe it was, the crowd was really behind Chad Gable in his match. And I was like, oh, Chad, man, this is going to be your chance. Because he's a guy who I've watched for a long time. I think he's done a really good work. I really appreciate what he does as a wrestler. And I kind of like this wholesome character that, like, apologizes to people and means it. I'm just like, I think Chad Gable's going to be like my workout buddy and my friend. Like, he's a good guy. And tonight the crowd wasn't as behind him. And they worked a good match. I just don't think there was a few points where it felt like they were going to turn that corner and the energy would be turned up. But I don't think it got to that level despite their best efforts.
I feel bad for Chad Gable because when he comes out, he's rocking to this song that looks like it's the third song on the Karate Kid 4 credits. Like, it's so cheesy, like 80s movie music. I mean, there's so many like 80s movies where that it wouldn't be the one that plays on the radio that you associate with, like, Breakfast Club, like what? Or like it's the second or third song in the credits when everyone's already outside of the theater, but they have their soundtrack they got to sell, so it has to be part of the movie. That's what Chad Gable's song sounds like to me. And there's a point where Gable is part of the chorus, and he's coming to the ring, he's all pumped up, and then it gets to that point, he goes, Gable, and nobody's doing it.
Yeah.
It's trying so hard.
Like, I know Javon is doing this thing where he's trying to do the wave for himself. And the first time he tried it was very pathetic, but I got to give him credit. He's trying to get it working. But to both him and Chad, I'd say you got to give it 3 more weeks. But if you give it 3 more weeks and it's not gaining momentum, you got to put that in the chest and lock it up forever.
Or just amplify Gable in the soundtrack, like make it more obvious. But
or hire plants.
Pump in the noise. Yeah, I mean, hate to suggest that. Real quick, did you make anything of the fact that they didn't mention this venue hosted 2 WrestleManias decades ago?
I didn't even think about it, and I didn't know it was the same venue.
Yeah, I mean,
about WrestleManias at WrestleMania 4 and 5, right?
Yeah,
with Macho Man winning the tournament, and then him and
Trump. Because I think that my guess is they just didn't want to associate with Trump.
I hope so.
Yeah, because they seem to be moving away from that. They did show, and it was interesting. Austin Theory was there. Otherwise, it was Charlotte and Cody and another babyface doing a charity event in New Jersey. And so I thought that was let me see. It was the Boys and Girls Club of America at it was a President's Council of Sports and Fitness, and they showed Paul Levesque with Robert Kennedy, who's just wacko. He looked dignified.
My big problem with RFK is he actually does say a few smart things about nutrition.
Yep.
But the things he said about vaccination have just disqualified him from being an authority. And also, people forget the guy is an environmental lawyer. He has no background in health at all.
Yep.
And
That it
people-
is. He gives a bad name to good suggestions because he's
Yes.
so wacko. But that's never on topic here though. They show it was interesting. Oh, Rey Mysterio was the other guy there. But it was interesting. Austin Theory as a heel was shown. They haven't shown heels in charity events for years. I used to harp on that. Like, stop showing someone you want us to boo, high-fiving kids and going to charity events. If they're there, it's great. I'm not saying don't send heels to the events because people just don't show them in the highlight package. Don't put things that create a headwind for somebody to get the heat they're looking for otherwise. But they said the President's Council on Sports and Fitness, it's sort of the generic excuse for Paul Levesque to do it. It's just the tradition. It's not because I'm a Trump supporter and my mother-in-law is in the administration. But it was interesting. They didn't say we're at this historic, and I'm pretty sure this is where it was. I know they tore down a bunch of stuff that was part of that Trump Atlantic City Plaza, but I'm pretty sure it was the same venue. So because it's old enough, and I looked it up online while the show's on, so I didn't do thorough research, but I think it was the same. Yeah, so Derrick has a point. They are different events. I don't know what that. They both took place at the same venue, the historic Boardwalk Hall, officially the official Jim Whelan Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City, New Jersey. So yeah. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, if it is, I think it's the same. It looks the same, and it's right next to my little research, right next to where the old casino was. So it's just weird they didn't go. Yeah, we're back. We're back here. It's just weird, So anyway, cool. All right. Thanks everybody. Thanks, Derrick. Always really entertaining talking with you. I appreciate it.
Well, I enjoyed talking with you as well, and the community that you've built, Wade, because your presentation and covering wrestling has a lot to do with the people who listen to you, and they're a more open-minded, civil group of individuals who are friendly than some of the other places I've encountered in the wrestling internet world, which I think we all have this choice in life, and it's great. If you don't like something, turn it off, cancel it, stop watching it, stop paying attention to it. And that's the best way to just get it to die, or at least die to you so you don't realize it's there.
Yes.
And that's what I've done with a lot of things in life. This is one that I keep on my radar and continuously pay attention, because it's a positive community that shares a love for pro wrestling, which I enjoy myself.
Great words. I'm nodding along, and I appreciate it. And I'm proud of the community we built and the tone that we take. And I mean, it's deliberate, and that's it's not like that elsewhere. There's a lot of toxicity, and it's kind of crazy. We can do as much talking about wrestling as we do, and open up our chat to the public, and have phone calls, and I wouldn't want to do this if it was like it is in all these other places. I wouldn't enjoy it. So, all right, cool. Thanks everybody. We'll check for the flagship tomorrow night on our Blue Logo show. That's podcast only. So search Wade Keller on your podcast app and subscribe to that show if you haven't yet. It's free, or go VIP and get the commercial free version of it. And we'll talk to you all next time. Thanks so much.